Chapter 446. You'd asterisk MN bird. She and Mimi clenched her teeth and wanted to catch the ice fire Luan. However, the ice fire Luan was smart enough to dodge her. Mimi, that's enough. Why did you provoke little Hong Lan for no reason? Yuan Bupo felt a headache coming on. He nodded apologetically at Yunsheng and pulled Xian Mimi to the side to bandage her wounds. Seeing that the evil woman had left, the ice fire Luan landed on Yunsheng's shoulder again. The group left the Grand Emperor City quickly. In a dark corner above the city gate of the Grand Emperor City, Madame Bai watched the dozens of Chongming birds leave. Her eyes were as venomous as a poisonous snake's. She said darkly, "Don't think that I can let this go just because you killed my son. I don't believe that you will be able to reach the immortal residence nation alive." Behind Madame Bai, a servant who looked like a summoner said softly, "Madam, everything has been done according to your instructions. We have sent the news to the Tang Yuan nation. I believe that the second prince should have received the news by now." Yunsheng and the rest rode the Chongming birds to the west. The immortal residence was an otherworldly place. It was Yunsheng's first time coming to such a remote place. She heard from Yuan Bupo that they had to pass through the Tang Yuan nation to reach the immortal residence. Yuan Bupo, how much do you know about the sorcerers in Tang Yuan? Yunsheng was a sorcerer. She had heard that Tang Yuan had the most sorcerers in the mainland. Even the headquarters of the Dharma Temple was located in Tang Yuan. Yunsheng decided that if she had enough time, she would stay for a while after passing by Tang Yuan. Or, after finding the water of life, she would go to the Dharma Temple to pay Xiao Wenxiu a visit. After all, she didn't know how to use the water of life. I don't know much. It was all my father who told me. There are indeed many sorcerers in Tang Yuan nation, and many of them are very powerful. There are also many sorcerer families in the nation. We have to be careful not to offend them. I'm afraid we'll have to be more careful when we head to the immortal residence this time. We'll have to pass through the Tang Abyss in order to reach the immortal residence. While passing through the Tang Abyss, we'll have to draw the symbol of the Grand Emperor City on every Chongming bird. Yuan Bupo was a little embarrassed when he heard Yunsheng's question. The rule of Grand Emperor City was that one could not leave the city without permission before reaching adulthood. Therefore, Yuan Bupo did not have many chances to leave the city. Most of the major cities in the Tang Yuan kingdom had implemented a flight ban. If the flying beasts of other kingdoms wanted to pass through, they had to show specific signs. The Grand Emperor City had a close relationship with the Tang Yuan kingdom. Therefore, whenever the citizens of the Grand Emperor City passed by the Tang Yuan kingdom, they would draw special magical markings on their flying magical beasts. What will happen if we don't draw the magic symbol? It was the first time Yunsheng had heard of such a prohibition. When she was in Zhou State and later Qin, she seemed to have never heard of such a special rule. The consequences are serious. Any sorcerer in the Tang Yuan kingdom can attack a flying magical beast without a symbol if they see it. The loot after killing it belongs to the sorcerer. Yuan Bupo even gave an example when he said this. According to Yuan Wuxiu, there was once a warrior from another kingdom who still did as he pleased even after knowing the rule of the Tang Yuan kingdom. He passed by the capital of the Tang Yuan kingdom. Guess what happened? That warrior, who had the abilities of a martial arts grandmaster, was hit by hundreds of magic spells in an instant. In the end, he fell from the sky together with his magical beast. Even the bones of his family members have not been found yet. Yuan Bupo's fearless personality could not help but reveal a taboo expression at this moment. The number of sorcerers in the Tang Yuan kingdom was much more than the number of warriors in Zhou State and later Qin. Moreover, sorcerers were good at long-range attacks. They could attack anyone who hid in any corner. The process of being hit by hundreds of sorcerers' magic spells could only be described as tragic. Oh, then we have to be careful. Let's not delay any longer. Let's draw a symbol on our mounts first, so that we don't become the target of other sorcerers' magic spells. Yunsheng's scalp went numb when she heard that. There were only a few dozen of them. If they were attacked by a group of sorcerers, there would be nothing left of them. Yuan Bupo smiled and ordered a few of them to draw a magic formation. Yunsheng asked a few more questions, and Yuan Bupo patiently told Yunxing everything he knew about the Tang Yuan kingdom. Although Yuan Bupo did not have much experience in leaving the city, he had read a lot of books since he was young and knew a lot about music theory. Yunxing even took the opportunity to ask some tricks about the Dihong song, and he answered all of them. The two of them seemed to be getting along well. Xian Mimi listened to the laughter that came from time to time and looked at Yuan Bupo's blushing face. She could not get a word in. Brother Bupo had never spoken to her like this before. What right did he have to treat Yunxing differently? Along the way, even a blind person could see that he had good intentions towards Yunxing. Xian Mimi walked to the side angrily, thinking of ways to make things difficult for Yunxing. However, with Yuan Bupo around, she did not have a chance to do anything. After a while, the magic formation was drawn. The group set off again, preparing to go to the immortal residence after passing through the Tang Yuan kingdom. In the Tang Yuan kingdom, an urgent secret letter was sent to the second prince, Li Xiao. Xian Wuji is dead? What a useless piece of trash. Li Xiao opened the letter and was shocked. The letter was written by Madame Bai. In the letter, she told him about the failure of the plan and Xian Wuji's death. This time, Li Xiao thought that he was well prepared. He did not expect that it would be a complete failure in the end. In the end, Xian Wuji was too useless. Although Li Xiao was the second prince of the Tang Yuan kingdom, he had been intelligent since he was young. Even among the Wuji 5 annulists, he was known for his intelligence. He was good at scheming and was shrewd. He said that he was working with Xian Wuji, but in reality, he was secretly controlling Xian Wuji. He thought that Xian Wuji, as the young governor of the Grand Emperor city, would at least be a little scheming. He did not expect him to be a useless idiot. His plot against the residents of Yun had failed, and Tian Kezi and Yunba had also failed in their competition. Later on, the Dark Crown Prince of Qin had also broken off his cooperation with him. This had caused Li Xiao, who had originally planned to take advantage of this opportunity to invade the Great Zhou Empire, to suffer a loss. He felt that things were not going well for him recently. Since the beginning of the Purple Gold Mine, Li Xiao had always thought that his plan was flawless and that no one would be able to disrupt it. Who would have thought that during this period of time, several matters had been inexplicably sabotaged by others? The whereabouts of that batch of purple gold was still unknown, causing Li Xiao to suffer several losses. This time, it was the same with the amniotic fluid of the magical beasts. The biggest reason for this failure was a female doctor named Yunxing. Yunxing of Zhou State. This person must be eliminated. Chapter 447. Li Xiao had also heard of Yunxing a long time ago. Before the martial sage competition, Li Xiao had not heard of this female physician at all. Only after that did he find out that her background was not simple. Other than being Yunba's granddaughter, she had many other identities. She was a hunter, a magician, and a doctor. It was said that when she was in Zhou State, she had defeated the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. What was even more commendable was that this girl named Yunxing was also an outstanding potion master. When she was in the Royal Magic Academy, she had already created a high-grade potion and was praised by the Moon Goddess. This time, a large part of the reason why Yunba was able to escape danger was because of this female doctor. What made Li Xiao surprised was that in Madame Bai's letter, he saw the name Yunxing again. Yuan Bupo did not tell Yunxing the whole truth about Tang Yuan Kingdom. The current situation in Tang Yuan Kingdom could be said to be turbulent. As the Crown Prince, Li Cheng and the Second Prince, Li Xiao had been scheming against each other. The Second Prince, Li Xiao, was famous and thought that he was the best candidate to inherit the throne. He was very dissatisfied with Crown Prince Li Cheng. His mother was Emperor Tang Yuan's favorite concubine. For many years, Li Xiao had been suppressing Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, in name, Li Cheng's mother was born in a prestigious family. With the support of her family, she had been protecting the Crown Prince's throne. The brothers had been fighting openly and secretly without stopping. Hongdi City was adjacent to Tang Yuan Kingdom. It was inevitable that they would be related to Tang Yuan. The Xian clan, led by Xian Wuji, was on good terms with Li Xiao. On the other hand, the Yuan clan was on good terms with Crown Prince Li Cheng. That was why Madame Bai was secretly communicating with Li Xiao. Her son was dead, and she could not bear to see others live well. Whether it was Xian Mimi, Yuan Bupo, or Yun Sheng, she wanted to kill all of them with a borrowed knife. Both sides were on good terms with different forces. However, this was the internal affairs of Hongdi City. That was why Yuan Bupo did not say much. What a good move of borrowing someone else's knife to kill. However, this person really can't be left alive. A genius of Zhou State with such talent will only be one more scourge if he's left alive. He must be dealt with as soon as possible. A flame appeared in Li Xiao's hand, and Xin was immediately burned to ashes. Second Prince, we've already ascertained the flight path of Hongdi City. Tonight, they will pass by the outskirts of Biantong, the soldiers reported to Li Xiao. Send 50 mages who are good at attacking and lay an ambush in the suburbs. If they see any suspicious flying team, intercept them and kill them, Li Xiao ordered coldly. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu Pe, and the others entered Tang Yuan. Around nightfall, the Chongming bird flew in the sky. In the distance, they could see the capital of Tang Yuan, Biantong. In the suburbs, a group of mages in black magic robes were lurking. These people were all Li Xiao's subordinates. The prince has ordered us to attack immediately if we see anyone from Grand Emperor City. The magicians have been guarding this place for 2 days. Just as they were getting impatient, a flock of colorful Chongming birds appeared in the sky. It's Hongdi City's Chongming birds. Begin the operation. At this moment, Yun Sheng and the others had not noticed the abnormality on the ground a few hundred meters below them. We'll enter Tang Yuan's capital tomorrow. We'll rest nearby for a night. After we pass the capital, we'll reach the immortal residence in 7 or 8 days. Yuan Bu commanded the team in an orderly manner. No one would have thought that they would be ambushed when they had the sign of Hongdi City. In an instant, countless magic spells were launched into the sky. **T. There's an ambush. When Yuan Bu noticed it, an extremely cold wind blade had already chopped off the head of a warrior beside him. Yuan Bu leaped into the air. His first reaction was to protect Yun Sheng. However, there were too many magic spells. More than 50 mages and all kinds of magic weapons were aimed at the sky. It was as if fireworks had been set off. Although the warriors from Hongdi City were all skilled, not many of them had reached the level of martial marquis. When the Chongming bird was hit, it panicked and threw the people on its back off. Some of them did not even have time to react before they fell to their deaths. Some of them were hit by the magic spells in the air and were torn into pieces. It was a horrifying sight. In an instant, screams could be heard. Blood rained down like rain. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu could not find any trace of Yun Sheng. His eyes were bloodshot. The Chongming bird that he was riding on shrieked in agony. It was hit by a thunder magic spell. Brother Bu save me. Xiao Honglan. The ice fire wand flew up from Yuan Bu back. A blue and a purple glow was emitted from its tiny body. Its body enlarged and turned into a beautiful red and blue feather luan. The luan was a unique magic beast. It was immune to normal magic attacks. Yuan Bu grabbed the luan and pulled Xian Mimi, who was in a panic, up. Brother Bu, let's go down. Xian Mimi took the opportunity to hug Yuan Bu's waist and snuggled up to him. On the other side, there was a sudden ambush. Countless magic spells were launched at Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng had never been attacked by so many magic spells in one go. No matter how fast she reacted, she was caught off guard. No! She could only hear Yuan Bu's screams of agony. Yun Sheng could only feel that the Chongming bird that she was riding on was torn into pieces by the magic spells. In the next moment, she felt her body falling. A golden figure appeared in front of Yun Sheng. Mimi, let go of me. I want to find Yun Sheng. Yuan Bu lost track of Yun Sheng. His heart was burning. Let her fall to her death. What's so good about that bitch? Xian Mimi was jealous when she saw how agitated he was. She won't die. If you say another word, I'll throw you down. Yuan Bu heard the word die and felt his heart being pierced. Looking at the magic attacks on the ground, his heart suddenly turned cold. There was only one person who dared to attack them directly on Tang Yuan's territory. Tang Yuan's Li Xiao. Li Xiao, If anything happens to Yunsheng this time, I, Yuan Bupa, will not let you off. The wind howled as the magic spells were launched one after another. When Yunsheng fell from the Chongming bird, numerous magic spells surrounded her. It was difficult for Yunsheng to perform the body fusion technique in mid-air. Just as she was hesitating, Tycoon Gold appeared. Tycoon Gold did a beautiful somersault and blocked the magic spells with its body. Tycoon Gold was refined with hellfire. Weapons and magic spells were almost useless against it. Tycoon Gold protected Yunsheng in its arms. It slid down from the sky nimbly and landed on the ground. After Tycoon Gold was trained by Yi Baiming, it would appear to protect Yunsheng immediately whenever she was in danger. Yunsheng quickly reached a safe place under its protection. Chapter 448. However, due to the urgency of the situation, Yunsheng could not inform Yuan Bupo in time. She looked up and saw that the troops from Grand Empress City had been attacked by magic. Yuan Bupo had flown to a safe altitude under the cover of Little Red and Blue. However, he looked very anxious as he looked around. It was obvious that he was looking for Yunsheng. Yunsheng did not make a sound. She was worried that she would alert the group of sorcerers on the ground. Those sorcerers were quite powerful. They were indeed from the Magic Kingdom, Tang Yuan. When Yunsheng landed, she had already noticed that the sorcerers had a variety of attacks. There were fire and wind elemental magic attacks, and there were also lightning elemental attacks. Those people were very vicious. Their first attack was mid-level magic. It was obvious that they wanted to kill them. When did she make such an enemy in the Tang Yuan Kingdom? Yunsheng thought about it. She did not move around much in the mainland. The only one who could be considered as her enemy was the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, Tang Yuan. Yunsheng recalled something and took out a waste token. Could it be Li Xiao from Tang Yuan who had a grudge with her because of the purple gold mine? The amniotic fluid from the magical beast seemed to have come from the Tang Yuan Kingdom. Xin Wuji was dead. Li Xiao's conspiracy was exposed, and they could not find the purple gold mine. Someone must have told Li Xiao about the purple gold mine. Li Xiao, I haven't settled the score with you, and you came knocking on my door. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being rude. Yunsheng looked coldly at the sorcerers who were lying in ambush in front of her. Previously, Yi Baiming became the Oriole and killed more than 100 sorcerers from Li Xiao's smelting factory. It seemed that the lesson from Li Xiao was not enough. Should she return the favor and teach him a lesson? The sneak attack in the sky was almost done. Yunsheng and Tyrant Jean approached the sorcerers quietly. Compared to Yi Baiming, who killed 50 sorcerers in one go, what she did was considered merciful, right? She was too merciful. A fierce light flashed in Yunsheng's eyes. She quietly used Earth Meld and approached the group of magicians. Are they all dead? Dozens of Tang Yuan's mages looked at the sky, which had returned to calmness. The people of Grand Emperor City are only SOSO, unable to withstand a single blow. This time, the second prince must be very happy, a magician said proudly, being able to wipe out the enemy so cleanly. After confirming that there were no survivors at the scene, Tang Yuan's sorcerers relaxed. Some of the greedy sorcerers even took the valuables from the corpses or cut open the bellies of the Chongming birds to dig out the soul stones and magical beast meat. The people of Grand Emperor City were not to be offended. The second prince had said that they must clean up the scene as if nothing had happened. The magicians released fire magic to burn the corpses left on the ground, destroying all traces of the corpses. A sorcerer was cutting open Chongming bird's chest and digging out a soul stone. The Chongming bird was a demonic beast unique to the Grand Emperor City, and the price of its soul stones on the market was quite good. That sorcerer was digging with all his might when someone behind him asked. Speaking of which, the route that the people of Grand Emperor City took this time was so secretive. How did they get discovered? The sorcerer did not even turn his head. These people were unlucky to have offended Madame Bai of Grand Emperor City. She told us the entire route. Not only did His Majesty the Second Prince prepare a group of people, he also planted people on the other two routes that they had to take. They escaped this time, but they won't be able to escape next time. Oh, His Majesty the Second Prince? Li Xiao. The indifferent voice behind him made the sorcerer stop what he was doing. He turned his head vigilantly, but it was too late. On the ground, a fireball engulfed his body in an instant. Yunsheng and Tycoon Jean stood in the night. The second Prince Li Xiao and Madame Bai? Yunsheng said lazily. Tycoon Jean, kill the rest of them. Remember, pay them back in their own coin. Yuan Bupo could not find Yunsheng's whereabouts, and he could not fight against dozens of sorcerers alone. Helpless, he could only take Xian Mimi and hide first. Around daybreak, in the outskirts of Biantong, when the morning light fell, the hillside was still green, and round dew rolled down from the leaves. Tycoon Jean was agile, and he had already cleaned up all 50 sorcerers. Yunsheng kept the treasures in her hands without hesitation. Looks like we have to enter the capital of Grand Tang and find Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi first. Yunsheng originally planned to go to the immortal residence directly, but with Li Xiao's interference, her plans were all messed up. Yunsheng and Tycoon Jean, who was disguised as a sorcerer, rushed towards Biantong. As soon as the two of them left, Yuan Bupo brought Xian Mimi and rushed over from another direction. Yuan Bupo's eyes were a little dark. He searched the hillside and did not find Yunsheng's corpse. While he was relieved, his heart was in suspense, because he realized that the corpses of his brothers in Grand Emperor City were all gone. It was as if this place was cleaned up overnight. Or could it be that Yunsheng had already? Yuan Bupo did not dare to think further. Xian Mimi watched from the side and said, "Brother Bupo, don't look anymore. We haven't eaten anything since last night. Why don't we enter Biantong and send the news back to Grand Emperor City?" Yuan Bupo thought that maybe he could get some information in Biantong City. In Biantong City, the second Prince Li Xiao just got up, and one of his concubines was helping him undress. Did the people from last night come back? If the route provided by Madame Bai was not wrong, or if the people from Grand Emperor City followed the original route, they should have been wiped out by now. Those who got in the way of Tang Yuan and Li Xiao's plan could forget about living in this world. Second Prince, they haven't come back yet. I'm afraid they're still cleaning up the scene, Li Xiao's personal guard reported. If they come back, immediately order them to come and greet me. Li Xiao was very confident in his group of sorcerers. Li Xiao waited until noon, but his group of sorcerers still did not come back. Li Xiao was a little uneasy. What? Not a single person came back. A trace of gloom streaked across Li Xiao's elegant face. There was no news from the 50 sorcerers since last night. Second Prince, I've already sent people to check the area, but they didn't find any traces. The guard's face was not looking good. Who knew that when they arrived at the outskirts, they could not find a single person? Not to mention the sorcerers. They could not even find a corner of those people's clothes. This happened in the outskirts of Biantong City. It was too strange. Chapter 449. The sorcerers sent by the second prince, Li Xiao, were all gone. It was as if the 50 sorcerers were like dew in the morning, evaporating and disappearing upon contact with the light. Even the people from the Grand Emperor City did not find a single one. After the second prince's guards investigated carefully, they could only find some traces of magic being used. However, they were only traces of magic being used by the sorcerers in the residence. There were no other clues. Could it be that the sorcerers in the second prince's residence had an internal strife and killed each other? Li Xiao and his guard captain naturally did not think that the one who killed those sorcerers was Tyrant Jean. In order to confuse the public, Yunsheng even specially let Tyrant Jean kill the sorcerers one by one according to their magic. Facing Tyrant Jean, who was invulnerable to fire and water and almost immune to magic, he killed them one by one. Li Xiao and the others naturally could not tell. Just thinking about this matter was very unimaginable. There was a large group of sorcerers. Moreover, to be safe, the second prince had chosen sorcerers who were at least at the level of Archmage. It was obviously impossible for so many people to go missing and betray him at the same time. After thinking about it, there could only be one result, which was that they had all been killed. Second prince, the guards at the city gate said that 2 people suspected to be from the Grand Emperor City entered Biantong early this morning. Could it be that the people from the Grand Emperor City did it? The guard captain saw the second prince's gloomy expression and did not say a word. He knew that his master was in a bad mood. 50 sorcerers, and they were not ordinary sorcerers. The last time, they lost more than 100, and this time another 50. No matter how many aides the second prince had, sorcerers were not leeks after all. They could grow back after being cut. The people from the Grand Emperor City don't have that ability. Li Xiao pondered. He was also able to keep his composure. If it were someone like Yi Balian, he would have been angered half to death after encountering such a situation. Send someone to keep an eye on the city gate and see what kind of people have entered the city these few days. Especially people from other countries, especially warriors and sorcerers. Once they enter, immediately keep an eye on them. Li Xiao pondered. Li Xiao had the ability to remain calm and collected. From this, it could be seen that this person was not simple. This time, it was almost exactly the same as the previous time at the Purple Gold Mine. They did not know who the other party was, and they acted quickly and ruthlessly, not leaving a single person alive. No matter who it was, once he found out, he would definitely make the other party pay a corresponding price. The Imperial bodyguard captain obeyed and immediately went to carry out the order. Zhou State, Wushuan Limitless Library. Yi Baiming was in a trance. Baiming, master is talking to you. Can you hear me? Zhongli glanced at his disciple with dissatisfaction. Master, I'm sorry. I was distracted for a moment. Yi Baiming rubbed his nose. He was a little absent-minded. Just now, he seemed to have felt a little uneasy, as if something was about to happen. Yi Baiming couldn't help but think of Yun Sheng. It had been a few days since Yun Sheng left Zhou State. With Tycoon Jin's protection and her intelligence, she shouldn't be in any danger. You've been absent-minded for a while. Have you considered the matter of the mainland's elite camp? How could Zhongli not be able to see that Yi Baiming was not in the right state? It seemed that after Yun Sheng left, he was always absent-minded. Master, your disciple wants to take it slow. Yi Baiming pushed away the letter in front of him. Baiming, 2 years ago, you said that you wanted to take it slow. Master agreed. But this time, Master can't indulge you anymore. The signs of your body turning into a beast are becoming more and more obvious. Zhongli looked at Yi Baiming. This was the disciple he was most proud of. Yi Baiming's future was limitless. As his master, Zhongli felt that there was nothing else he could pass on to Yi Baiming. Zhou State's current situation was that Empress Qi favored Yi Baiming. Ever since Yi Baiming's Dharma soul was damaged and it was difficult for his cultivation to improve, Yi Baiming became even more hostile. He targeted Yi Baiming every day. Although Zhongli vaguely knew that Yi Baiming wouldn't just sit and wait for death, he was still not strong enough to compete with the Zhou State Emperor and the others. The best way was for him to temporarily leave Zhou State. 2 years ago, Yi Baiming had been faced with a similar opportunity. But at that time, he had used his insufficient cultivation as an excuse to temporarily reject it. But ever since he met Yun Sheng again, especially with Yun Sheng's help, he had fused with the beast blood. The mysterious beast energy in his body had been catalyzed and accelerated, and his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. Zhongli had previously exchanged blows with him and discovered that his strength had actually surpassed his own. If it was under the influence of that mysterious beast energy, he would have probably reached the martial sage realm. This was a terrifying test. Yi Baiming was only 13 years old, but he had already reached the martial sage realm. If this news were to spread, it would probably force Empress Qi to retaliate fiercely. Empress Qi didn't mind, but would the Dharma Temple behind the Zhou State Emperor let the matter rest? Therefore, for now, Yi Baiming could only go there. Only there could he learn more battle skills that would make him stronger. That was the mainland's elite camp, the training ground for martial artists. As the curator of Wushuan Everlasting Hall, Zhongli had a spot to recommend students directly to the mainland's elite camp. 2 years ago, he had originally wanted to leave this spot for Bu Jiuxiao, but Bu Jiuxiao had rejected it. He felt that Yi Baiming was more qualified than him to go to the mainland's elite camp to train. At that time, Yi Baiming had suddenly appeared in front of the world again, and he was indeed more suitable than Bu Jiuxiao. The mysterious power in Yi Baiming's body had become more and more active over the years. Zhongli thought that only the instructors of the mainland's elite camp could suppress that mysterious power in his body. That power had already been in Yi Baiming's body when he was still a child. Zhongli had seen it once by chance. Even though he was a martial arts grandmaster, he still felt that it was very terrifying. Every time it became active, Yi Baiming would even lose control, like a demonic beast. The mysterious power should be something that Yi Baiming was born with. Zhongli sometimes wondered if it was related to Empress Li. It was just that Empress Li had been dead for many years. Even the old palace servants who served her were mostly dead. The mysterious power's origin was unknown, and Zhongli had no ability to suppress it. Zhongli was worried that if this continued, Yi Baiming would one day completely lose his humanity. Master, let me think about it again. How could Yi Baiming not know? Especially after he had killed Tian Kezi last time. He could feel that the power in his body was even more restless. He was also worried that this power would explode at any time and even hurt Yunsheng. Therefore, even though Yi Baiming knew that Yunsheng was going to the Grand Emperor's city, he still resisted and did not accompany her. Did you make the deputy curator depressed again? Yi Baiming walked out of Zhang Li's training room. Bu Jiuxiao and Cheng Bai were waiting for him, one on the left and one on the right. Chapter 450. The opportunity to join the elite camp is hard to come by. In a few years, the Octatera artifact will be unearthed. This time, there are rumors that the artifact is likely to be the halberd of the Divine Warrior. If you don't join the elite camp, I'm afraid we will clash with the warriors there. It was rare for Bu Jiuxiao to say so much at once. Any warrior would cherish the opportunity to train in the elite camp. If the other party wasn't Yi Baiming, Bu Jiuxiao would have already won this spot. In the past 2 years, the news of the Octatera artifact that was about to be unearthed had spread like wildfire. Recently, there was reliable news that the artifact was most likely to be the halberd of the Divine Warrior. If it was really the halberd of the Divine Warrior that was once the #1 warrior of the continent, even the elite camp would fight for it. For martial artists, especially those young martial artists who had yet to mature, the Continental Martial Artist Elite Camp was undoubtedly a holy land. All of the geniuses hoped to have the opportunity to train there. Baiming, are you worried about the little miracle doctor? Don't worry, if you go to the elite camp, we will take care of her for you. But then again, the little miracle doctor is vicious and cunning. It's good enough that she doesn't scheme against others. Cheng Bai patted his chest. Yi Baiming rolled his eyes at Cheng Bai. His words didn't sound like a compliment at all. Since you're worried, let her go to the elite camp. I heard that after the Royal Magic Academy worked hard, they also managed to get a spot in the elite camp. Bu Jiuxiao was speaking the truth. The elite camp was divided into the elite camp for warriors and the elite camp for magicians. They recruited the best warriors and magicians on the continent respectively. But there was a requirement. The students of the elite camp had to be under 16 years old. If they were over 16 years old, no matter how powerful they were, they wouldn't have the right to enter the elite camp. This was because it was publicly acknowledged that only warriors and magicians under 16 years old could develop their potential to the greatest extent. After the establishment of the Royal Magic Academy, because the standard of the school was too average, they never had the chance to get a spot in the elite camp. But the Crown Prince, Yi Bailian, had always wanted to enter the elite camp. The royal family had spent a lot of effort and a lot of money to get a spot. Who would have known that Yi Bailian was a disappointment? His Dharma soul was damaged. Even if he had gotten in through the back door after entering the elite camp, his Dharma soul would be tested and he would be exposed. The continent's elite camp definitely wouldn't accept students with problems with their lost souls. As such, the Royal Magic Academy had no choice but to reselect suitable candidates to enter the continent's magic elite camp. Speaking of which, you all know the popular candidate this time. It's the Crown Princess, Chun Lian-er, Bu Jiuxiao said. When Cheng Bai heard this, he said disdainfully, Chun Lian-er's magic cultivation is very ordinary. What qualifications does she have to participate? Then we have to ask Empress Qi. Her son is useless. Maybe she wants Chun Lian-er to replace him. TSK. It's embarrassing. In the future, Zhou State shouldn't be ruled by a woman, Bu Jiuxiao said with disdain. As for Empress Qi's special favor, it had even started to affect the Zhou State Emperor. The military officials in the court had always been very disdainful. Yi Baiming frowned slightly. If it was Chun Lian, things wouldn't be so simple. Recently, Chun Lian's strength had improved very quickly, especially after Yi Bailian's Dharma soul was destroyed. Chun Lian had already broken through to become a master magician a few months ago. Speaking of which, she was indeed one of the top figures among the younger generation in Zhou State. If Yunsheng was still young before, he wouldn't be very worried. But ever since the Dark Crown Prince proposed marriage, Yi Baiming had no choice but to be careful. Yunsheng was no longer that inconspicuous little girl in Banana Leaf Village. As her cultivation and age increased, her silhouette and aura changed greatly. Perhaps in the eyes of some people, Yunsheng wasn't as beautiful and eye-catching as Chun Lian. But that was because Yunsheng deliberately hid it. Yunsheng was that kind of person. If she didn't want to attract attention, she could stand quietly in the crowd and be inconspicuous. But if she wanted to attract attention, she could reveal her sharpness in an instant and exude a breathtaking aura. He really couldn't be at ease leaving the little wild cat alone in Zhou State. The Mainland Warrior Elite Camp and Mainland Magician Elite Camp were in the same place. If he went with Yunsheng, his future cultivation would be much better. Thinking of this, Yi Baiming couldn't help but smile. When will the recommendation for the Academy of Magic be confirmed? Yi Baiming was indeed worried about Yunsheng. About 2 to 3 months after the new year, the Mainland Magician Elite Camp will arrive in Jade Capital, Bu Jiuxiao said. 2 to 3 months. There was still time. The matter in Grand Emperor City should be more or less settled. What Yi Baiming didn't know was that Yunsheng was no longer in Grand Emperor City. Just as Yi Baiming thought, when Yunsheng wanted to hide herself, no one could tell. After finding out that the person who killed them was the second prince of Tang Yuan, Li Xiao, Yunsheng decided to go to Biantong, the capital of Tang Yuan Kingdom. Yunsheng used the disguise spell. After her magic cultivation increased, the duration of the disguise spell also increased. Right now, she looked like an ordinary girl with a sallow complexion and a slightly sickly appearance. She was exactly the same as the sickly girl Lin Yao had met earlier. After Yunsheng walked for a while, a city gate appeared in front of her. The city gate looked to be heavily guarded. The soldiers were checking the passers-by. Yunsheng didn't panic and walked over unhurriedly. "Where are the two of you from?" After the city guards received second Prince Li Xiao's order, they started to check the city gate strictly, especially people from Zhou State or Grand Emperor City. If they encountered them, they had to be carefully monitored. "Sir, I'm from Zhou State." Yunsheng took out her identity card. "Zhou State?" Upon hearing that she was from Zhou State, the city guards immediately became alert. "I'm a doctor. I'm here to practice medicine in Tang Yuan." Yunsheng was calm and collected. She took out her doctor's card. A doctor. Between countries, the exchange of doctors was relaxed. On the boundless continent, there was a type of person who was very respected even during wartime. That was doctors. Doctors crossed borders. Most of them practiced medicine to help the world. Yunsheng's reason for coming to Tang Yuan was very simple. Her medical qualification examination period had expired. She wanted to break through to the next level of traveling doctor. Her master, the imperial physician of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion in Zhou State, wanted her to travel to other countries and learn the way of medicine. Not only was she a doctor, but she was also the personal disciple of an imperial physician. The city guards couldn't help but be in awe. Chapter 451. Knowing that Yunsheng was a traveling doctor, the city guards did not question her further and let her in respectfully. There was a summoner behind Yunsheng. A few city guards stopped him. "Who are you?" "I'm a summoner from Penglai. I came to Tang Yuan to travel." "Why can't I?" The summoner was very arrogant. He deliberately played with the summoner ring on his hand. It was very eye-catching. A summoner from Penglai? The two city guards were shocked by the other party's identity. Penglai was north of Tang Yuan. Most summoners were arrogant and rude. They would summon demonic beasts at any time. However, most of them had the support of the Zhou State. Therefore, ordinary countries could not do anything to them. It would be troublesome to offend such a malefic person. The city guards trembled. They did not dare to ask more and let her in. It seemed that the identity of a summoner was very useful. Yunsheng secretly watched from the side as she walked into Biantong City. After entering the city, Yunsheng decided to stay in the city for a night. She wanted to see if she could find Yuan Bupo and the rest. She randomly found an inn and checked in. A day had passed. Yunsheng did not hear any news about Yuan Bupo. Yunsheng could not help but wonder if they had returned to Grand Empress City. Naturally, Yunsheng could not find Yuan Bupo. This was because Yuan Bupo contacted Crown Prince Li Cheng not long after the night attack. Under Li Cheng's cover, Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi arrived at the Crown Prince's residence successfully. Brother Yuan, Miss Xian, I'm very sorry about what happened this time. In Crown Prince Li Cheng's residence, Li Cheng looked anxious. Li Cheng was Li Xiao's eldest brother. He was the son of Empress Min of Tangyuan. His appearance was different from Li Xiao. He had thick eyebrows and a short nose. He was not tall and looked honest. Unlike his younger brother, who was known as one of the Wuji 5 Jade Annulus on the mainland, Li Cheng's talent was very ordinary. Although he was also a magician, he was over 20 years old and still only had the cultivation of a master magician. Because of this, Emperor Tang Yuan did not pay much attention to him. However, his mother's family was not weak, and he was also cautious and conscientious. Thus, no one found fault with him, and he firmly held the position of crown prince. In Grand Emperor City, the Xian and Yuan clan supported different princes. Yuan Wuziu and Crown Prince Li Cheng were very helpful. For many years, they had been secretly supporting Li Cheng. When Li Cheng woke up early in the morning, he found out that Yuan Bupo and the rest were ambushed by unknown people outside the city. He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he quickly calmed down and secretly ordered someone to bring Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi, who were filled with anger, into the residence. Your Majesty, there is no need to say anything more. Hongdi City will definitely investigate this matter thoroughly. Right now, I have an even more important matter that requires your Majesty's help. At that moment, what Yuan Bupo was most concerned about was not who had plotted against them. Instead, he was more worried about Yunsheng. Yuan Bupo shuddered in fear when he recalled how the demonic beasts that were attacked by the magicians had died without a complete corpse last night. He was most afraid of hearing about Yunsheng's death. After last night, Yuan Bupo suddenly realized that Yunsheng had unknowingly occupied such an important place in his heart. His feelings for her had already been deeply rooted. It was only then that Yuan Bupo understood why his eldest sister was so loyal to Yun Songlong. Xian Mimi saw Yuan Bupo's nervousness, and it was even more sarcastic. She wished that Yunsheng was already dead. It would be best if she died in an extremely tragic manner. Although she did not know who had plotted against them, Xian Mimi wanted to thank that person. Although Xian Mimi was wearing a veil, her eyes were clear like water, and her body was very graceful. She was obviously a beauty that could topple cities. Her angry expression at the side was even more eye-catching. When Crown Prince Li Cheng saw her feminine appearance, he had a different kind of charm. A hint of adoration appeared in the Crown Prince's eyes. Brother Yuan, Miss Xian, when you first came to Tang Yuan, my mother specially set up a banquet in the palace to entertain the two of you. When Crown Prince Li Cheng was 14 years old, he had already married his wife. The husband and wife were very loving and respectful to each other. Unfortunately, the Crown Princess had a short life. When she was 10 months pregnant, she unfortunately met with a difficult labor when she was about to give birth. Both mother and child died. Crown Prince Li Cheng was a man of affection. Ever since the Crown Princess died, he had not married. However, as the Crown Prince, it would not be good if he did not have an heir. Minho persuaded him many times before he was gradually persuaded. Crown Prince Li Cheng had not married all these years. When he saw Xian Mimi today, he saw that she was beautiful and was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's governor. Her background was very compatible with his. He could not help but admire her. He wanted to use this banquet to let his mother take a look. If she was suitable, he was prepared to marry Xian Mimi. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi naturally did not know about Crown Prince Li Cheng's thoughts. The two of them were currently living under someone else's roof. Moreover, they had to entrust the crown prince to find someone. Seeing the crown prince's great hospitality, the two of them could not refuse and agreed. Unexpectedly, the news that the crown prince had just invited an important guest and that Min Ho would set up a banquet in the palace to entertain the important guest from Grand Emperor City quickly reached the second prince Li Xiao's ears. Who came from Grand Emperor City this time? Li Xiao knew that the Yuan family in Grand Emperor City had always been on good terms with the crown prince. In Madame Bai's letter, she only mentioned the female sorcerer from Zhou State. As for who came from Grand Emperor City, she did not mention it in detail. Second prince, the crown prince's secret agent said that it was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's governor and the leader of the Yuan family, Yuan Bupo. Li Xiao could not help but be shocked when he heard the guard captain's words. Damn Madame Bai. If Li Xiao knew that these two people were coming, he definitely would not have acted rashly. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi were both leaders of the younger generation. If anything happened to either of them, the Grand Emperor City's governor would be furious and would definitely not let it go. It was also because he was momentarily muddle-headed that he almost messed up the important matter. Li Xiao understood that with Xian Wuji's death, Madame Bai had lost her value. The real power of Grand Emperor City would either fall into the hands of Xian Mimi and her future husband, or it would fall into the hands of the most outstanding person of the Yuan generation, Yuan Bupo. Fortunately, these two people were fine. Now that both of them were in Tang Yuan, he had to win them over. It was rumored that Xian Mimi was young and beautiful. Li Cheng had lost his crown princess for many years. If he wanted to remarry, Xian Mimi would definitely be the most suitable candidate. How could he allow Li Cheng to get what he wanted? Thinking of Li Cheng's ugly appearance, Li Xiao was disdainful. As long as he appeared, Li Cheng would be unremarkable. As for Xian Mimi, she would be in his bag. Li Xiao immediately ordered people to inquire about the banquet in the palace today. Empress Min set up a banquet. In the evening, Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi entered the Tang Yuan palace together under the crown prince's escort. Thank you for all the tips and tickets. I've returned home after my business trip. Although I have a slight cold, seeing everyone's support warms my heart. Chapter 452. Tang Yuan was located on the southeast side of the mainland. The climate was humid and the flowers were abundant. The Tang Yuan palace was surrounded by colorful flowers. There were many demonic beasts and rare birds. It was a beautiful sight to behold. Queen Min knew what was on her son's mind. Along the way into the palace, there were lanterns floating in the corridor. Coupled with the unique illumination magic, it looked especially special at night. Brother Bupo, this place is much bigger than Grand Emperor City. Xian Mimi felt good being surrounded by a group of palace maids. Grand Emperor City was as rich as a country. It had been accumulating wealth for many years. However, it was still a city away from the world. The area of the city was about the same size as Bientang. Although the products it had were unique, it could not be compared to Tang Yuan. Therefore, Xian Mimi was dazzled when she entered the palace this time. Yuan Bupo was still worried about Yun Sheng's safety. Although Crown Prince Li Cheng said that he would search for Yun Sheng's whereabouts in the country, he was still absent-minded. He did not listen to Xian Mimi's words at all. He only nodded casually in a perfunctory manner. Xian Mimi's joy disappeared when she saw his indifferent expression. She was furious. She tore an unknown flower by the roadside and threw it on the ground. Crown Prince Li Cheng smiled gently when he heard that. He said flatteringly, Miss Xian, if you like, you can come to Tang Yuan to play in the future. You can even stay in the palace. Xian Mimi's expression changed when she saw Li Cheng's friendly expression and thought about the meaning behind his words. She looked at Li Cheng's appearance. He had a narrow forehead, a wide nose, and a short body. There was a hint of adoration in his eyes when he looked at her. A sense of disgust rose from the bottom of her heart. A person like this wanted to pursue her? Xian Mimi scoffed. Although her face was injured, she always thought that her face could be healed as long as she found the water of life. Li Cheng invited her to the palace because he wanted to please her. A toad wanted to eat a swan's meat. What wishful thinking, she said coldly. Thank you for your kindness, Crown Prince. However, I'm used to being with Brother Bupo everywhere. Or should I say that you want to invite both of us to the palace as guests? In other words, it was obvious that he had a good impression of Yuan Bupo. Crown Prince Li Chung was stunned when he heard that. He then looked at Yuan Bupo. Yuan Bupo did not seem to hear their conversation. His handsome face was tense as he looked at a magic formation not far away. He was lost. No one knew what he was thinking. Looking at the distance between him and Xian Mimi, it seemed like they were intentionally keeping a distance from each other. It seemed like the two of them had no intentions. Yuan Bupo had been inquiring about the whereabouts of a lady from the Great Zhou dynasty called Yun Sheng. His expression was very nervous at that time. It was obvious that he was interested in that lady. As the crown prince, Li Cheng was honest and considerate, but he was no fool. He knew that if he could get the help of the Xianyuan and Xianyuan clans, his chances of ascending the throne in the future would greatly increase. He had to find a way to find the lady named Yunsheng. That way, he could cut off Xian Mimi's admiration for Yuan Bupu and please Yuan Bupu at the same time. A palace appeared in front of them. The palace was a typical southern building. It had undulating eaves and was richly ornamented. Crown Prince Li Cheng saw a group of people coming as soon as he got close to the Morning Dew Palace. The leader was the second prince, Li Xiao. Crown Prince Li Cheng's expression changed when he saw that. The banquet was supposed to be a private one. Li Cheng did not want Li Xiao to know about it. Although he and Li Xiao were brothers, they were worlds apart in terms of appearance and ability. He wanted to please Xian Mimi and take the opportunity to propose marriage. However, if Li Xiao was there, even a blind man would know who to choose. Brother, what a coincidence. I'm here to greet Empress Min. Who are these two? Li Xiao looked elegant as usual. He was wearing a dark purple sorcerer's robe. The sorcerer's scepter was at his waist, and he had a jade crown on his forehead. His features were picturesque. He looked up and saw that behind Li Cheng, there was a tall young man and a slim young girl following closely behind. Li Xiao saw Yuan Bupo's face clearly. He could not help but praise him in his heart. He did not expect there to be such an outstanding person in Grand Emperor City. Li Xiao and Xian Wuji had known each other for a long time. However, Xian Wuji was a mediocre person. When he saw Yuan Bupo today, he realized he was much more powerful than Xian Wuji. He looked at Xian Mimi. Although she was wearing a veil, he could tell she was a beauty just by looking at her temperament. Greeting? It's already the moon. What kind of greeting was this for an hour? Li Cheng was furious. Xian Mimi, who was next to him, could not help but take a few more glances when she heard it was Tang Yuan's second prince. With one look, Xian Mimi couldn't help but reveal a stunned expression. She always thought Yuan Bupo was the best-looking man in the world. She did not expect Tang Yuan's second prince to be so handsome. In fact, Li Xiao and Yuan Bupo had two different temperaments. Li Xiao was handsome with a hint of aristocratic elegance. If one did not know him well, they would think he was a gentleman. Yuan Bupo was a young man. He was beautiful from head to toe. His appearance was similar to a woman's, but he did not give off a feminine vibe. When the two of them stood together, they were like two bright stars in the sky. Their brilliance was irreconcilable. Li Cheng was furious. However, as the saying goes, a slap does not hit a smiling person. Li Xiao was famous for being a smiling fox. Li Cheng could only smile and say, "Second brother, you're so considerate." These two are important guests from Grand Emperor City. It's a coincidence today that Mother is hosting a family banquet in the palace to entertain the two guests. I saw that Imperial concubine Su was not feeling well. I thought you were attending to her at her bedside, so I did not inform you. Imperial brother is really thoughtful. Mu Fei's health is no longer in danger. I haven't paid my respects for many days. Coincidentally, someone sent over several bolts of high-quality smoke cloud silk today. I thought of Mu Fei and entered the palace. Li Xiao's gaze seemed to linger on Xian Mimi's body. If that's the case, follow me into the palace. Li Cheng had no choice but to enter the palace with the second prince. When Min Ho saw the second prince, a trace of unnoticeable displeasure flashed across his face. Li Xiao and his mother had been pampered and domineering in the palace all these years. Li Xiao even used his mother's weak body as an excuse to skip the formalities of greeting. He could have done it at any other time, but he chose to do it tonight. The group of people had their own thoughts as they took their seats. However, the palace banquet became turbulent because of Li Xiao's sudden participation. An unknown danger was approaching quietly. Chapter 453. Thank you, Second Prince. Today's banquet is a private banquet. I'm very happy that you can come. Although Queen Min was angry, she still looked amiable on the surface. Queen Min and Crown Prince Li Cheng looked alike. Their appearances were ordinary, but their temperament was not bad. It was obvious that they were nurtured by years of palace life. Queen Min was able to stand in the harem for so many years. Compared to Queen Li of Zhou State, she was more outstanding. She then looked at the two distinguished guests from Grand Emperor City. With a kind expression, she pulled Xian Mimi over and looked her up and down. You must be Mimi. As expected, you live up to your name. Your looks and figure are even more outstanding than your mother's. Queen Min's mind was clear. She had already guessed Crown Prince Li Cheng's intention. If it was before, Queen Min would look down on Xian Mimi's background. After all, Xian Mimi was not the legitimate wife's child. Her identity was not presentable. However, now that Xian Wuji was dead, Madame Bai's downfall was inevitable. Xian Mimi's identity was different. Min Ho and Lady Ro had met once and knew that although Lady Ro wasn't the official wife, she was more shrewd than the jealous Lady Bai. Thinking about it, a daughter raised by such a woman wouldn't be too bad. Xian Mimi did not have a good impression of Crown Prince Li Cheng. She did not have a good impression of Queen Min either. She responded indifferently. Queen Min seemed to have guessed something when she saw Xian Mimi's indifferent expression. She did not blame Xian Mimi. She looked at the men sitting at the side. Crown Prince Li Cheng's identity was the most honorable. However, when he stood with Yuan Bupo and Li Xiao, he was inconspicuous. I've been a vegetarian for many years. I've only prepared vegetarian dishes. If they don't suit your taste, please don't be offended. Queen Min ordered the palace maids to serve the dishes. The dishes prepared by Min Ho were very exquisite. The wine prepared was also top-grade Tang wine. It tasted like honey and was very mellow. Even Xian Mimi, who had never drunk alcohol, couldn't help but drink until her face turned red. Li Xiao was good at talking. As they chatted, he talked about many interesting stories in Tang Yuan Kingdom. Xian Mimi could not stop laughing. In comparison, Crown Prince Li Cheng was very dull. He did not say much. Yuan Bupo still looked absent-minded. He did not eat much and began to drink his wine. Queen Min watched from the side and was secretly anxious for her son. If this continued, Xian Mimi's thoughts would be stolen by Li Xiao. It just so happened that at this moment, the second Prince Li Xiao mentioned something amusing. Xian Mimi laughed so hard that she was trembling. Cheng-er! Queen Min frowned and glanced at her son. Didn't you learn the zither a while ago? I heard that Mimi is quite accomplished in the zither. Why don't you let Mimi guide you? Crown Prince Li Cheng also saw second Prince Li Xiao and Xian Mimi having a good discussion. He was vexed in his heart. With Min Ho's reminder, the second prince and Xian Mimi looked at Li Cheng. Even Yuan Bupo stopped drinking. Oh, Your Majesty the Crown Prince knows how to play the zither? Xian Mimi's beautiful eyes were even more alluring under the light of the palace lanterns. Li Cheng swallowed his saliva. He wanted to show off his skills in front of Xian Mimi. He hurriedly stood up. It's just a few years of elementary school. Since Mother said so, I'll show you my incompetence. He ordered the palace maid to bring the zither and placed an incense burner. Crown Prince Li Cheng's cultivation was far from Li Xiao's. Li Xiao was a student of the mainland's magic elite camp, while Li Cheng was only a magic master at the age of 20. However, he was fond of music when he was young. He had a famous musician in the palace as his teacher and learned the zither for 15 years. Queen Min was being humble when she said that it was his first time learning the zither. Grand Emperor City was famous for guzhanga. Xian Mimi and Yuan Bupo were proficient in music. Both of them looked down on Li Cheng. However, when they heard that he was good at the zither, their gazes softened slightly. How could Li Cheng not know that this was his mother's chance to show off? He took out the zither. It was a pure white jade zither. Green smoke curled up from the incense burner, illuminating the zither even more beautifully. Isn't this the famous magic zither Snow Song? Xian Mimi's expression changed slightly when she saw Crown Prince Li Cheng take out the zither. There were a few famous zither in the mainland. The most famous one was the one used by the first Grand Emperor City Lord, Xinyuan Nine Dragon Zither. That zither was the legendary divine zither that no longer existed in this world. There were a few other zither that were also very famous. One of them was the Snow Song. The uniqueness of this zither was that its body was not made with traditional techniques. Ordinary zither were made with wood or the bones of demonic beasts. The more special ones were made with jade or metal. However, Snow Song was made with a piece of 1,000-year-old ice that was 10,000 meters below the glacier sea. The ice was accidentally fished up by a local fisherman and was transferred to Tang Yuan. The magicians of Tang Yuan used 3 years and used all kinds of methods, but were unable to melt or carve out this piece of 1,000-year-old ice. In the end, a female magician from the immortal Jew nation used a special refining method to refine this zither. Later on, Snow Song was bought at a high price. No one knew how many owners it had passed through until more than 300 years ago, when a magician who was proficient in music used Snow Song to play snow all over the sky on a June day. That was how Snow Song got its name. I didn't think there was such a zither in this world. Crown Prince, play a song. I want to see if it can create snow all over the sky like in the legends. Xian Mimi was a woman. Women were the most superstitious when it came to hearsay and legends that were like myths. It was only the end of September. It would be strange if snow suddenly fell. When Li Cheng heard this, he secretly cursed. This Snow Song was a newly acquired zither. His original intention was to show off in front of Xian Mimi, who knew that he would end up making a fool of himself. It was still unknown whether Snow Song could create snow all over the sky. In any case, the Crown Prince had played it 3 or 4 times. There was nothing special about it. With his zither skills, he might not even be able to play a snowflake, let alone create snow in June. However, if he could not play it, he would be ruining the beauty's heart. Then his efforts to please Xian Mimi would be in vain. Li Xiao saw the Crown Prince's troubled expression. To put it bluntly, his elder brother was an idiot. Royal brother, then you should have a good song. Don't ruin Miss Xian's good intentions. Li Xiao's eyes were filled with ridicule. Li Cheng clenched his teeth in hatred. Empress Min also had a helpless expression. Yuan Bupo saw the two's open and covert struggle. He shook his head in his heart. It was a good zither, good scenery, and good wine. It was a pity that it was ruined by these people who did not know how to enjoy themselves. Yuan Bupo saw the Crown Prince's attempt to please him. He was not interested in these fights between the royal family. However, when he thought about how Li Xiao might be the mastermind behind the attack, he was furious. If the Crown Prince doesn't mind, I'm willing to play the zither with you. What do you think? Yuan Bupo's suggestion made the Crown Prince sigh in relief. Chapter 454. Xian Mimi was overjoyed too. Brother Bupo, I haven't heard you play the flute for a long time. Every person in Dihong City would follow the rules of Dihong City from the moment they were born to when they turned 1 year old. However, it was different from the Boundless Continent. The children in the Grand Emperor City were grabbing musical instruments. Yuan Bupo grabbed the flute with one hand. Hence, he used the flute to practice the Dihong song all these years. As for Xian Mimi, she chose the guqin. It was also because of the musical instrument that Xian Mimi had always claimed that she and Yuan Bupo were destined to be married. It was said that the first person in Dihong City was the city lord and his wife. One of them was good at the flute while the other was good at the guqin. It was said that the last 3 movements of the Dihong song also used the flute and the guqin to achieve the greatest effect. Hence, Xian Mimi naturally thought that she and Yuan Bupo were destined to be together. Yuan Bupo was not interested in this. When they were in Dihong City, Yuan Bupo almost never played the flute in front of her. She chased after him and asked him a few times, She still remembered Yuan Bu Po's words very clearly. I only play the flute for two people. One is my confidant, the other is my lover. In other words, Xian Mimi was neither of them. At that time, Xian Mimi was furious. She did not know if Yuan Bu Pa had too much to drink, but he took the initiative to say that he wanted to play the flute. Xian Mimi was overjoyed. She wanted to see what level Yuan Bu Po's flute music had reached. Thank you, Brother Yuan. Crown Prince Li Cheng invited Yuan Bu Po to play the flute together. The two of them chose a song that was popular in the mainland, Goddess of Luo. The song Goddess of Luo came from the immortal residence. It was said that a folk musician passed by the immortal residence nation and met an elf princess by chance beside the immortal residence's border river, Luo River. The princess happened to be playing with her maid by the river. The musician remembered the princess's appearance. He looked at her from afar. She was like a hibiscus in the water. She was as beautiful as the moon. Her laughter was crisp and clear, like the sound of a falling jade pearl breaking. The musician immediately played a song praising the beauty of the elven princess. Because they had met by the Luo River, this song that was used to describe the beauty of a woman was named Goddess Luo. Crown Prince Li Cheng had an ulterior motive for choosing this song. He wanted to use music to describe people and praise Xian Mimi. One of them played the zither, while the other played the flute. Under the moonlight, one could only hear the sound of the zither and the flute. Crown Prince Li Cheng's zither skills were indeed extraordinary. It was no wonder that he had been immersed in the zither for more than 10 years. Coupled with the unique timbre of the snow song, there was a unique charm when he played it. Needless to say, Yuan Bu Po's flute music was even better. He had added a part of the Di Hong song's rhythm into his flute music. Not only was it beautiful, but it was also faintly unique. In the Morning Dew Palace, everyone was immersed in the beautiful sound of the flute and zither. At this moment, the Goddess Luo song had reached its climax. It happened to be the moment when the beauty of the elven princess was vividly described. The two people's zither and flute music kept dancing. Li Cheng only felt that his hands were not listening to him anymore. Yuan Bu Po frowned slightly. Li Cheng's zither skills were not too far off from Xian Mimi's, but it was still not right. The harmony of the zither and flute was about a realm. Just like the harmony of the zither and the flute, it was also a realm. This realm was not related to the zither skills, it was related to the person. The original intention of playing the Goddess Luo song was to go along with Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, towards the end, he seemed to be attracted by the scene in the Goddess Luo song. He could not help but see the scene of a beauty playing in the water. Yuan Bu Po could not help but recall the time when he first met Yun Sheng. He and Yun Sheng had only met a few times. When they first met, Yun Sheng was dressed like a handsome young man. Although she was a man, Yuan Bu Po, who was also a man, could not help but take a few more glances at her. At that time, Yun Sheng was like the rising sun. She was handsome and unruly. She did not know how to play the zither, but she rashly competed with him. He still remembered that Yun Sheng's zither skills were terrible. She was much worse than Crown Prince Li Cheng. However, she was very bold, or perhaps she was very smart. No matter how he sped up the flute music or changed the tune, she would be able to catch up. It felt as though he had found a soulmate. At that time, the zither and flute battle skills ended in a draw. The second time they met was in the Earth's core smelting cave. When Yuan Bu Po first saw her, her clothes were untidy and her face was dirty. However, even under such circumstances, her thin shoulders, slim waist, and jade-like skin still caught Yuan Bu Po's attention. When she merged with the fire of elves, the lady who seemed to have been reborn from the fire. Her hair was like clouds, her eyes were charming, and her cheeks were like peach blossoms. Yuan Bu Po almost used all the words that could be used to praise a lady, but he still felt that it was not enough. Every man would form their own Luo Shun in their heart when they heard Luo Shun. She would either be enchanting, pure, or outstanding. At that moment, the Luo Shun in Yuan Bu Po's heart was Yun Sheng. It was a pity that Yun Sheng's whereabouts were unknown. If she were to die, his heart suddenly felt empty, as though something was missing. Yuan Bu Po's heart was throbbing in pain. He replaced the longing and insecurity in his heart with the flute music under his lips. Just like the river after a storm, all of his worries and longing poured out in an instant. The flute music changed abruptly and became faster. Crown Prince Li Cheng noticed that too. He could not help but become flustered. However, how many people in the world could catch up with Yuan Bupo's flute music? He played faster and faster, and Li Cheng's zither music could no longer catch up with Yuan Bupo's flute music. His forehead was sweating profusely as his fingers brushed across the surface of the zither. Virum, the sound of the zither reverberated, and one of the zither strings broke. Crown Prince Li Cheng's face instantly turned pale, but Yuan Bupo's flute music did not stop. Brother Bupo? Xian Mimi's face was also filled with grief. How could she not tell that Yuan Bupo's heart was already in a frenzy? Why was his heart in a mess? What was it? His face turned cold, and Yuan Bupo could not help but lift his hand to touch his face. He saw that it had started snowing. The snow in September was not heavy. It was fluttering like reeds. It did not feel cold even when it landed on one's face. Crown Prince Li Cheng was shocked. It was really snowing. Was the snow really played by Snow Song? Li Xiao was also in disbelief. He looked around and saw a sorcerer quickly putting away his magic scepter. It seemed that the snow attracted by the zither and flute music. After a while, Yuan Bupo's body was covered in snow. His hair and the space between his eyebrows were also covered in snow. He looked as though his hair had turned white overnight. Xian Mimi looked at Yuan Bupo in a daze. She only felt her heart aching more and more. She had never seen her brother Bupo like that before. All of this was for Yun Sheng. Chapter 455. Why did he fall madly in love with Yun Sheng after meeting her 3 times? Great. It's a great song. The Crown Prince and young Master Yuan's Luo Shun is a perfect match. Minho took the opportunity to compliment. She could tell that something was wrong with Yuan Bupo earlier. Fortunately, she was prepared. She asked the palace sorcerer behind her to cast a sorcery secretly and managed to deal with it. Young Master Yuan's flute music is the best in the world. It's amazing. The second prince, Li Xiao, complimented as well. However, he did not mention Crown Prince Li Cheng's Guqin skills at all. It embarrassed Li Cheng. Yuan Bupo held the 9-dragon flute in his hand as his heart turned cold. He suddenly said to Minho, "Minho, I have a favor to ask. I came to Tangyuan with a lady named Yun Sheng. We were attacked on the way, and she and I were separated. I hope the Empress can help me find her. She's my sweetheart." Minho was shocked when he heard what Yuan Bupo said. On the other hand, Xian Mimi's expression changed. She did not expect Yuan Bupo to say that Yun Sheng was his sweetheart in front of Minho. Yuan Bupo had a sweetheart? Li Cheng and Li Xiao were relieved, but Li Xiao could not help but frown. The lady named Yun Sheng should be the female sorcerer from the residence of Yun that Xian Wuji mentioned earlier. Could it be that the 50 magicians that he had lost were related to Yun Sheng? Minho understood that Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi only had one-sided love. Judging from the flute music earlier, Yuan Bupo's talent was quite high. In time to come, his attainments in Dihonga would not be inferior to the current city lord of the Grand Emperor City. If such a person could help Cheng, it would definitely be beneficial in the future. Young Master Yuan was attacked on the way? Someone dared to attack a demonic beast with Dihong City's symbol. How dare they? Cheng, get someone to investigate this thoroughly tomorrow morning, Minho said coldly as he glanced at Li Xiao. Li Xiao's brows furrowed slightly, and then he relaxed his brows and took a sip of wine as if nothing had happened. "Thank you, Queen Min," Yuan Bupo bowed slightly. Minho was just about to get up when his expression suddenly changed. He felt dizzy and could no longer stand, falling to the ground. "Mother!" Crown Prince Li Cheng hurried forward. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi were also surprised. Even the second prince, Li Xiao, was shocked. "Why are you still in a daze? Immediately call for the imperial physician." Crown Prince Li Cheng helped Minho up. Looking at her pale face, he knew that something bad had happened. The Morning Dew Palace was instantly thrown into chaos. The next morning, Yunsheng stayed in the city for another half a day as she continued to look for Yuan Bupo's whereabouts. After searching for a long time, he still didn't find anyone with the surname Xian or Yuan staying in any of the inns in the city. Yunsheng was tired of searching, so she casually walked into a lively restaurant in the city and ordered some wine and dishes. After eating a few mouthfuls, he suddenly heard a few guests at the neighboring table discussing. "Have you heard? Something big happened in the palace yesterday." "Isn't that so?" The city was bustling early in the morning. It's said that the palace was in a mess. Biantong was under the emperor's rule. In such a place, all kinds of news were spread quickly. Yunsheng wasn't interested in the news, but when she heard that something happened in the palace, she couldn't help but listen. It said that someone from Dihong City came, and the Empress held a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, the Empress suddenly fainted and she hasn't woken up yet. Someone from Dihong City came? Could it be Yuan Bupo and the rest? Yunsheng was not a fool. Yuan Bupo only briefly explained the distribution of power in Tang Yuan the other day. Judging from the situation of the purple gold mine last time, Tang Yuan and Dihong City's relationship wasn't simple. After she entered the city, she searched along the way but couldn't find Yuan Bupo. It turned out that Yuan Bupo had already entered the palace. However, he was in the palace and it was related to the poisoning of the Empress. It was probably very difficult to see Yuan Bupo. "Waiter." Yunsheng stopped a waiter. "The guests are talking so enthusiastically. What happened?" As she spoke, she took out a silver coin and threw it to the waiter. The waiter immediately beamed. "Guest, they said that something happened in the palace. Empress Min was poisoned last night, and she's still unconscious. It's said that all the imperial physicians in the palace were called in. One night has passed, and it's still unknown whether she's dead or alive." "Oh!" When Yunsheng heard that, she suddenly had an idea. "Waiter, I'm a physician and I know a little about poisons. If I want to recommend myself to enter the palace, what can I do?" If she could sneak into the palace, she could reunite with Yuan Bupo and the rest. "I'm afraid it's not easy. I heard that Imperial concubine Su's people have sealed the palace gate. She said that she wants to find the culprit. If you're not a famous physician in Tangyuan, I'm afraid it's not easy to get in." The waiter didn't dare to say more. Everyone in Biantong knew that the second prince's mother, Imperial concubine Su, and the crown prince's mother, Empress Min, were like fire and water. One of them wanted the other to die as soon as possible. This time, the biggest suspect for Empress Min's poisoning was Imperial concubine Su. However, no one dared to say it out loud. Imperial concubine Su said that she wanted to strictly investigate the physicians. However, the imperial physicians were helpless. If they couldn't find a solution, Empress Min wouldn't be able to survive the night. If Empress Min died, the palace would belong to Imperial concubine Su and the second prince. Then it's difficult. I have a good antidote. Unfortunately, I can't enter the palace. Yunsheng's face was full of regret. "Young lady, are you telling the truth?" A famous drinker suddenly rushed up from the side. He looked at Yunsheng with a nervous expression, but his eyes were full of hope. "Of course it's true. When I was in Zhou State, I cured many poisons. My master is an imperial physician in Zhou State." Yunsheng's face was matter-of-fact. "Good. Come with me to the palace. I'm Empress Min's younger brother." It was a coincidence. After Empress Min was poisoned, the Min family was worried sick. They tried to find all kinds of physicians. They even went to the temple. However, they still couldn't find the cause of Empress Min's poisoning. When Yunsheng heard this, she knew that there was a chance. She remained calm and followed Min Ho's younger brother all the way to the Tang Yuan Imperial Palace. Inside the palace, the crown prince looked anxious as he paced back and forth. He remembered that his mother had suddenly fainted last night. His heart burned with anger. "Your Majesty, you should go and rest. You haven't drunk a drop of water since last night. You haven't closed your eyes." The old palace servant next to him was worried. As he spoke, Imperial concubine Su and the second prince, Li Xiao, walked in with a magician behind them. Seeing Li Xiao, Crown Prince Li Cheng rushed forward and grabbed Li Xiao. "Li Xiao, were you the one who poisoned him?" Chapter 456. Queen Min's health had always been good. She had never seemed ill. Yesterday, Li Xiao had come to the banquet for no reason. Then Queen Min had suddenly collapsed. Looking at Queen Min's appearance, she had clearly been poisoned. However, all the imperial physicians in Tang Yuan had been mobilized. They had taken turns to look at her, but they could not find anything wrong with her. Li Xiao swept Li Cheng's hand away. His tone was very displeased. Li Cheng, what nonsense are you talking about? Which pair of eyes of yours saw me poisoning? Furthermore, on that night, you and I, as well as the two esteemed guests from Grand Emperor City, were all present. We used the same wine and food, and no one was poisoned. Only the Empress was poisoned. What right do you have to say that I poisoned her? Li Xiao was also surprised when he saw Empress Min suddenly fall to the ground yesterday. Although Queen Min was the Empress, she was not favored. Why would Li Xiao kill her? Crown Prince, you can't speak nonsense. Murdering the Empress is a capital offense. Besides, why would Xiao murder the Empress? Imperial concubine Su frowned. She and Queen Min had been fighting for many years. They had been at each other's throats. She was not stupid. What good would it do to harm Queen Min at this time? If I really wanted to harm the Empress, why would I invite a sorcerer from the temple? Li Xiao smoothed his collar. His face was full of disdain. Only then did everyone notice that there was a well-dressed sorcerer behind Li Xiao. That person was wearing a sorcerer's robe from the temple. Li Xiao had a good relationship with the temple. After Queen Min's accident, he immediately ordered people to invite a sorcerer from the temple. Is this Xiao Wenxiu or Xia Ximing? The crown prince could not find anything wrong with Li Xiao. He could only glare at Li Xiao angrily. The temple's elder Ximing had stopped treating people a long time ago. In these years, when important members of the imperial family were injured, it was mostly Xia Wenxiu who treated them. He could become the crown prince largely because of Queen Min. However, in these years, Queen Min's maternal family had been weakened. Li Xiao was also close to the temple. His sense of crisis had increased day by day. He didn't want to invite the people from the temple fair, but the imperial physicians were at their wits' end. They could only try using the light magic of the temple fair. Xia Ximing has been in seclusion for the past few days, so he can't come. I'm his senior, Ru Yi. The magician who spoke was young, about the same age as Crown Prince Li Cheng. He was handsome, humble, and courteous, just like how the Dharma Temple treated people. Not Xia Ximing? Li Cheng was slightly disappointed, but in any case, this person was Xia Wenxiu's junior brother. It could be assumed that his attainments in light magic were also quite good. Li Cheng hurriedly dodged, letting Ru Yi walk in. The group of people waited outside. Inside the temple, Xia Wenxiu quietly sat in front of the Heaven's Mandate mirror. Ever since he came back from Zhou State, Elder Judge Ming, who had never lost his temper, actually scolded him fiercely. Xia Wenxiu didn't explain too much in the face of criticism. This made Jiyu even more furious, and he immediately punished Xia Wenxiu by locking himself up for a month to reflect on his mistakes. Without permission, he was not allowed to leave the temple. This was why Xia Wenxiu couldn't go when Min Ho was in trouble. Xia Wenxiu didn't express any resentment in the face of the punishment. He didn't say a word, and only meditated in front of the Heaven's Mandate mirror. Xia Wenxiu also noticed the cracks on the Heaven's Mandate mirror. He couldn't help but sigh. Last time, he had to bear part of the responsibility for what happened to Yunba. He knew that his master would be furious, but he still did it. This was also the first time he disobeyed his master's wishes. He still remembered that day when his master flew into a rage and questioned him. Why did you do it? Do you know that your actions this time have already revealed the secrets of the heavens? If the Heaven's Mandate mirror is damaged, the Dharma Temple's luck will also be affected, and your own fortune will also be greatly reduced. He knew all of this, but he still did it. The reason he did it had nothing to do with the country, nor was it related to his fortune. He just wanted to help Yin Sheng. That was all. Young Master Ming, Yu Ji quietly appeared behind him. Seeing young Master Ming staring blankly at the Heaven's Mandate mirror, he couldn't help but sigh. After his young Master Ming returned, he looked like he had lost his soul. He said that he was in seclusion to reflect on his mistakes, but he looked like he was in a daze every day. Xiao Wenshu didn't turn back. He knew what was going on. Tang Yuan Li Xiao came to the Dharma Temple in the morning, saying that Min Ho was poisoned for no reason yesterday. Crown Prince Li Cheng suspected that he was the one who poisoned her, so he personally came to the Dharma Temple to prove his innocence. Li Xiao was a member of the continent's magic elite camp. His teacher was friends with Ji Yu, so Ji Yu couldn't ignore Li Xiao. But considering that Xiao Wenshu was still in seclusion to reflect on his mistakes, he sent Ru Yi over. Senior Ru, he sent a message saying that Min Ho was poisoned. He can't find the specific reason, and light magic can't cure her either. Yu Ji handed over a slip of paper. Ru Yi was a rare expert of light magic in the Dharma Temple. If even he couldn't cure her, then the poison that Tang Yuan and Min Ho were poisoned this time was no small matter. Xiao Wenshu looked at the slip of paper and was slightly moved. What did Master say? Elder Judge of Fate said that Min Ho will be fine this time. What he meant was that Xiao Wenshu didn't have to step in and continue to reflect on his mistakes. It seemed that Master was really angry this time. Xiao Wenshu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He took out the trigram and performed a divination. When the trigram appeared, it was just as Elder Judge of Fate, Ji Yu said. Min Ho's trigram was a blessing in disguise. After the ominous light, there was a benefactor helping her. However, Xiao Wenshu was secretly amazed. What kind of person could cure a patient that even senior brother Rui couldn't cure? Min Ho's trigram was very special. It was a blessing in disguise. It seemed that after being poisoned this time, Min Ho and Tang Yuan's luck would change greatly. Xiao Wenshu looked thoughtfully at the heavenly fate mirror. Suddenly, a ray of auspicious light flashed. That ray of auspicious light flashed by at an extremely fast speed, but Xiao Wenshu still caught it. Ever since the last time Yun Ba's ominous sign suddenly appeared, the heavenly fate mirror hadn't shown any signs for a long time. Xiao Wenshu couldn't help but ponder. That ray of auspicious light seemed to have come from the west. Could it be that the benefactor who could turn Min Ho's misfortune into a blessing also came from the west? The west of the mainland happened to be Zhou State. Zhou State? Could it be her? Xiao Wenshu couldn't help but smile bitterly at his own thoughts. Why would Yinsheng come to Tang Yuan? He was really crazy. He was still thinking about her at this time. The signs of auspicious light were unpredictable. Perhaps that ray of auspicious light was just an omen. Since Master didn't want him to step in, then he wouldn't step in. Tell Senior Ru Yi to stay in the palace for the time being. Min Ho will have her benefactor to help her. Xiao Wenshu waved his hand and entered a meditative state again. Chapter 457. Inside the palace, Ru Yi was waiting for Xiao Wenshu's reply. Just now, he had checked Queen Min's body in front of everyone's expectations, but he didn't find anything strange. He had hoped that Junior Xia would be of some help, but he didn't expect Junior Xia to reply like this. Queen Min has a benefactor in her life. Benefactor? Even Tang Yuan's imperial doctors couldn't do anything about Queen Min's illness. Where did this benefactor come from? Crown Prince Li Cheng was disheartened when he saw that the light magicians invited by the temple couldn't do anything. At this time, a servant came to report, Crown Prince, Assistant Minister Min is outside the palace. He said he found a miracle doctor who can save the Empress. Imperial concubine Su and the others were stunned. Assistant Minister Min was Queen Min's younger brother. When the Crown Prince heard this, it was as if he had seen a life-saving straw. He hurriedly said, "It's Uncle Min. Let him in." "Wait, Your Majesty. The godly doctors near Biantong have all been invited to the Imperial Palace. Whether or not the doctor invited by Uncle Min is a godly doctor is still unknown. You must not rashly let people outside the Imperial Palace in." Imperial concubine Su was only an imperial concubine, but she was deeply favored by Emperor Tang Yuan. When Queen Min was still alive, the two of them were in charge of half of the harem. With Queen Min's illness, Imperial concubine Su immediately seized all the power in the harem with lightning speed. Even if someone from outside the palace wanted to see her, they had to get her permission. Crown Prince Li Cheng's power was almost a mere figurehead. Crown Prince Li Cheng was annoyed and angry. He didn't care about etiquette and pointed at Imperial Concubine Sue. Imperial Concubine Sue, my mother is terminally ill. You're stopping me from summoning a miracle doctor. What are you thinking? Don't think that I'm afraid of you, just because Imperial Father favors you. I'll go see Imperial Father now, and let him make the decision. The two of them pulled and pulled until they were in front of Emperor Tang Yuan. The people in Jialu Palace couldn't help but shake their heads when they saw such a disgraceful scene. Emperor Tang Yuan still cared about his many years of relationship with Queen Min. After receiving the news, he ordered people to summon Assistant Minister Min and the Miracle Doctor. Assistant Minister Min, Godly Dr. Yun, please enter the palace for an audience. Yun Sheng followed Assistant Minister Min all the way to Morning Cloud's palace. Yuan Bupo was stunned when he heard the eunuch call out Miracle Doctor Yun's name. Xian Mimi's face also showed some surprise. Could it be that this so-called miracle doctor was actually Yun Sheng? A middle-aged man dressed in the uniform of an assistant minister entered. Behind him was a skinny doctor. In order to hide her identity, Yun Sheng even found a medicine box and carried it on her back. She looked no different from an ordinary doctor. Yuan Bupa looked at the godly doctor's appearance, and he was still a little confused. This was clearly not Yun Sheng. Just as he was suspecting, he suddenly noticed that the skinny female doctor quickly raised her head and glanced in his direction. Those eyes, even though she had disguised herself with the disguise spell, Yuan Bupo could still recognize Yun Sheng's lively eyes with a hint of cunning in them. Her jet-black eyes did not match her appearance at all. Yuan Bupo's strange behavior attracted the attention of the second prince, Li Xiao. He could not help but take a few more glances at Yun Sheng. This woman looked really ordinary. If she were to be thrown on the streets, there would be a bunch of her. Moreover, this miracle doctor looked sickly. She looked like a bottle of medicine. Could she really save Queen Min? You're the miracle doctor from Zhou State? The great Tang Yuan Emperor also rushed over personally. When he saw his wife on the verge of death, he felt a little guilty. This woman had been with him for decades and raised a son for him. She might be ordinary, but she was still a good empress. I'm Yun Sheng. I was once taught by the former imperial physician of Zhou State, Fan Ji. Yun Sheng's voice was clear. When she faced Emperor Tang Yuan, she did not show any fear. Li Xiao could not help but look at her. He had heard of Yun Sheng's name before. He did not expect the miracle doctor who was in the limelight in Zhou State to be this ordinary female doctor in front of him. This person was the godly doctor who had saved the great Zhou's general, Yun Songlong. She was also the miracle doctor that Li Xiao wanted to kill. Yun Sheng also lowered her head and glanced at the crowd from the corner of her eyes. Other than Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi, there were two other unfamiliar men standing in the hall. One of them was handsome, but he looked cunning. It seemed like he was the rumored second prince of Tang Yuan. There was another person who looked ordinary. It should be the cowardly crown prince, Li Cheng. These days, the second prince seemed to be more talented than the crown prince. As for the last person, Yun Sheng could vaguely feel the fluctuation of light magic from him. People from the temple? Yun Sheng quickly recognized the identities of the people in the hall. If that's the case, quickly go forward and take a look at Empress Min, Emperor Tang Yuan urged. Thinking about it, Yun Sheng must have used a special method to conceal her appearance. Yuan Bupo did not know why Yun Sheng did that, but since Yun Sheng did it, he would not expose her. As long as Yun Sheng was not dead, everything would be fine. Yuan Bupo felt that the sky had cleared up after the storm. The gloomy mood from a few days ago disappeared immediately. Yun Sheng received Emperor Tang Yuan's permission and was about to go forward to take a look. Stop right there. Just as Yun Sheng was about to go forward, the second prince, Li Xiao, suddenly stepped forward and blocked Yun Sheng's path. He looked at Yun Sheng from head to toe. His tone was deliberately difficult. Royal father, this child has heard of the famous physicians of Granzhou. But I heard that the royal physician Fan Ji of Granzhou has long been banished from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. He even resorted to swindling and swindling for a living. Is that true? How dare he deceive me? Men, take this evil doctor away. Emperor Tang Yuan was furious. Wait. Yun Sheng was angered by Li Xiao's words. To Yun Sheng, Dr. Fan was not only her benefactor when she first came to Yujing, but he was also her guide on the path of becoming a doctor. If it was not for Dr. Fan, Yunsheng would never have thought of combining magic and medicine. She would never have thought of refining magic potions. The second prince insulted Dr. Fan, which was equivalent to insulting her. What else do you have to explain? Li Xiao saw the change in Yunsheng's expression and knew that she was indeed the miracle Dr. Yunsheng from Zhou State. After Yunsheng became famous in Zhou State, Li Xiao had ordered people to investigate. He discovered that this godly doctor had become famous overnight. His medical records were almost blank. As for her master, Fan Ji, he was a former imperial physician who was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Second Prince, I admit that my master was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion for some reason. However, it's a fact that he's an imperial physician. When he was 25 years old, he was already the youngest imperial physician in Zhou State. When he was 28 years old, he was expelled from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The reason was that he wanted to pursue a higher level of medical knowledge and combine it with magic, Yunsheng said crisply. She was not afraid of Li Xiao's difficulties at all. Chapter 458. Is this doctor talking about Zhou State's Dr. Fanji? Ru Yi, who had been silent all this time, spoke up. He was a magician from the Temple of Magic and had a very honorable status. Even Emperor Tang Yuan had to be respectful to him. Oh, could it be that Lord Ru Yi has heard of this person's name before? Emperor Tang Yuan couldn't help but ask. I've met Dr. Fan once. Ru Yi was Xiao Wenshu's senior. Before Xiao Wenshu became an adult, he had always been by Elder Ji Yu's side. At that time, Fan Ji was still in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Ru Yi had some impression of Fan Ji. He remembered that he was a doctor with great medical skills and would occasionally have unique opinions. Unlike the Medicine Emperor Pavilion that blindly pursued ancient medical skills, Dr. Fan was a very flexible doctor in Ru Yi's opinion. Later on, he also heard that Dr. Fan left the Medicine Emperor Pavilion for some reason. However, his reputation in Zhou State was still very good. In particular, he had joined a rapidly developing medical center in Zhou State, the Little C.I. Entong. Emperor Tang Yuan also understood that magic and ancient medical skills were like fire and water. Ru Yi also glanced at Yunsheng and recalled what junior brother Xia had said earlier. Empress Min had her own benefactor helping her. Could it be that Empress Min's benefactor was this female doctor from the Great Zhou in front of them? Your Majesty, why don't you let this lady take a look? After all, magic and ancient medical skills are unable to immediately diagnose the Empress's illness. Perhaps Miss Yun, who is proficient in magic and ancient medical skills, will be able to see the reason. I won't hide it from your Majesty. When Ru Yi entered the palace, Junior Xia had already sent someone to deliver a message. He said that the Empress's benefactor will naturally come from the southwest. Ru Yi spoke up for Yunsheng. Rather than saying that Ru Yi had confidence in Yunsheng, it was more accurate to say that he had confidence in his junior brother Xiao Wenshu. Xiao Wenshu was born with heavenly eyes, and his words were never wrong. Xiao Wenshu's words were without a doubt irrefutable and would definitely happen. A benefactor from the southwest? Wasn't that Zhou State? Even Xia Si Ming from the Dharma Temple had said so. Second Prince Li Xiao could only step aside gloomily. He didn't understand why Xia Siming, who had always been neutral, would speak up for someone from Zhou State this time. Did young Master Ming really say that? That benefactor must be Miracle Dr. Yun. There was a misunderstanding just now. Please don't take it to heart. Divine Doctor, please come in and take a look. If you are able to cure the Empress' illness, I will definitely reward you handsomely. Emperor Tang Yuan said with an amiable expression, Your Majesty, if Yunsheng is cured, please agree to Yunsheng's 2 conditions. Don't worry, Yunsheng's 2 conditions are not excessive, and they are definitely acceptable to your Majesty. Yunsheng was not in a hurry to see the doctor. She actually dared to negotiate with Emperor Tang Yuan. The Morning Dew Palace was filled with astonishment. Xian Mimi sneered from the side. You don't know what's good for you. Do you really think that your medical skills are unparalleled? Accompanying the emperor was akin to accompanying a tiger. In the end, Emperor Tang Yuan killed Yun Sheng in a fit of anger. Emperor Tang Yuan was also somewhat angry. A mere commoner actually dared to negotiate with him. Imperial Father, please agree to Miracle Dr. Yun's two conditions. When Crown Prince Li Chung heard that Yun Sheng was Empress Min's benefactor, he hurriedly stepped forward to plead. Emperor Tang Yuan suppressed the anger in his heart. What conditions? If I cure Empress Min, Your Majesty will have to make me an imperial physician and prove to the world that I'm definitely not a swindler. After Yun Sheng finished speaking, she glanced sideways at Second Prince Li Xiao. Yun Sheng was a woman. She had a small flaw that all women had, and that was that she liked to hold grudges. Moreover, now that she had offended the Imperial Medicine Pavilion, she probably wouldn't have a chance to take the physician examination. She couldn't continue to stay as a physician. She could take a shortcut and directly jump to become an imperial physician. When Second Prince Li Xiao heard this, he also knew that Yun Sheng's words were directed at his previous accusation. He was unhappy, but he couldn't refute and could only sulk at the side. That's easy. If you can cure an illness that even my imperial physicians can't cure, then your medical skills will naturally be above the imperial physicians. How about this? If you can cure Empress Min, then I will confer you the title of Imperial Physician of Tang Yuan. The Emperor of Tang Yuan was very decisive. A monarch never joked. When he said these words, even Yun Sheng felt a little flattered. At the side, Ru Yi was even more astonished. From a physician to an imperial physician, this directly skipped the ranks of roaming physicians, scattered physicians, and imperial physicians. This speed, in the entire continent, there wasn't a single physician who had this kind of speed. This female physician surnamed Yin was really too savage. Xian Mimi was also furious. She didn't expect that not only did Yun Sheng not offend the emperor, she was going to be made imperial physician of Tang Yuan. A 9-year-old imperial physician, this was really heaven-defying. On the other hand, Yuan Bupo's face was filled with worry. Although he heard from his brother-in-law that Yun Sheng's medical skills were unparalleled in the world, he had never seen it for himself. Empress Min's illness was very aggressive, and there were no symptoms at all. If it was poisoning at last night's banquet, he, Xian Mimi, and the rest were all present. Li Xiao didn't make any move to poison the food, so there was no chance. As for poisoning Empress Min's food alone, the chance was very slim, because the Imperial Palace's dishes were all specially tasted by palace servants. Thank you, Your Majesty. Yun Sheng's face was indifferent. This commoner has another condition. If this commoner can cure Empress Min, it proves that this commoner's medical skills are indeed extraordinary. However, Your Majesty's Second Prince just said that this commoner's master is a liar. As the saying goes, if a crown prince breaks the law, he will be punished the same as a commoner. Second Prince needs to pour tea and apologize to this commoner. Hiss, Jialu Palace was dead silent. However, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air in their hearts. Other than Li Xiao and Empress Su, who were green with anger, everyone couldn't help but give Yun Sheng a thumbs up in their hearts. Too awesome. Li Xiao was the most favored prince. In the entire Tang Yuan, no one dared to speak to him like this. Impudent. You're just a commoner. How dare you ask my son to apologize to you? Empress Su's face was red. This precious son of hers. Even she couldn't bear to let him pour tea. This lowly commoner actually made such a request. Oh! Yun Sheng dragged out the last syllable. Facing the furious imperial concubine Su, she only raised her eyebrows. Could it be that imperial concubine Su thinks that Empress Min's life is worth less than Second Prince's apology? Second Prince is really pampered. His cup of tea is actually more expensive than Empress Min's life. When Yuan Bupo and Ru Yi heard this, they broke out in cold sweat for Yun Sheng. She was too bold. This was simply playing with fire. Emperor Tang Yuan's face was also filled with anger. He also felt that Empress Su and Second Prince were making a mountain out of a molehill. Imperial Father, Empress Mother's life is in danger. Imperial Father, please reconsider. Crown Prince Li Chung saw this and knelt down with the palace servants to plead for leniency. Second Prince Li Xiao gritted his teeth. In his heart, he understood that today he had been tricked by Yun Sheng. Helpless, he could only say hatefully, "If you can cure Empress Min, I will pour tea and apologize. But if you can't, don't blame me for asking you for your crimes." Chapter 459. Don't worry, Second Prince. This commoner will definitely not do as you wish. Yun Sheng smiled. Only then did she enter the bedchamber of Morning Dew Palace and check on Queen Min. Time passed by, and the Morning Dew Palace was completely silent. Yun Sheng checked on Empress Min's body in Morning Dew Palace. She frowned and stood up to walk out. Crown Prince Li Chung quickly walked forward and asked, "Dr. Yun, what illness does my mother have?" "Empress Min doesn't have an illness." Yun Sheng looked around. "Then is she poisoned?" Crown Prince Li Chung asked. "It's not poison either." Yun Sheng looked at Morning Dew Palace and frowned even more. Seeing her frown, Second Prince Li Chung mocked, "It's neither an illness nor poison." "Yun Sheng, I'm afraid you didn't even see what illness Empress Min had. You still don't admit that you're a swindler." "Who were the people who drank with the Empress last night?" "Including the palace maids and kitchen maids. They all came forward." Yun Sheng ignored Li Xiao. In fact, when she entered the palace, she had already roughly determined the cause of Empress Min's illness. After checking just now, she was even more certain of this point. But after seeing the decorations in Morning Dew Palace, she was a little uncertain. A group of palace maids and a few people who were at the banquet all came forward. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi were among them. Li Chung and Li Xiao also came forward. Last night, something happened to Empress Min, and a group of people didn't remember to go back. They were all wearing yesterday's clothes. Yun Sheng first checked the palace maid's clothes and hands, but she didn't find anything strange. Even Yuan Bupo and Li Chung didn't find anything wrong with them. After that, it was Second Prince Li Xiao. Li Xiao was humiliated by Yun Sheng and was furious. He glared at Yun Sheng. He was usually modest and polite, but towards Yun Sheng, it was very easy for her to arouse his anger. "Second Prince, please open your hands." Yun Sheng spoke in a businesslike tone and did not shy away from examining Li Xiao's hands. Li Xiao noticed that Yun Sheng's hands were very long and slender. When she stood next to him, a sweet fragrance wafted over. It was very different from the rouge and face powder commonly used by women in the palace. "Miss Xian, it's your turn." Yun Sheng had already checked most of the people, leaving only Xian Mimi behind. If she still couldn't confirm it, her earlier guess would be completely overturned. "The one surnamed Yun, don't pretend to be mysterious. Just admit that you can't see the illness." Xian Mimi was unwilling to let Yun Sheng examine her and pretended to leave. Unexpectedly, Yun Sheng suddenly grabbed her hand. "I found it, Miss Xian. The cause of the Empress' illness is in you." "What? What nonsense are you talking about? Are you saying that I poisoned the Empress?" Xian Mimi's face instantly turned pale. She did not poison the Empress at all. She raised her hand and was about to slap Yun Sheng. "You damned bitch! You're framing me." Yun Sheng would not allow her to be so presumptuous. She grabbed Xian Mimi's hand. A hidden force was released from her body, and it instantly hit Xian Mimi's arm. Xian Mimi only felt her arm go numb, and she could not exert any strength. She was the daughter of the Grand Emperor City's city lord. Usually, people would treat her with respect. She had never been so wronged like today. She could not think straight and burst into tears. As she cried, she shouted, "Brother Bupo, His Majesty the Crown Prince, Second Prince, you have to help me. I didn't poison her. I didn't poison her." "Xian Mimi poison her?" Yuan Bupo was also shocked. He quickly went forward and pulled Xian Mimi up. "Yun Sheng, is there a misunderstanding? Mimi has no enmity with Empress Min. Why would she poison Empress Min? Moreover, we were all present at that time. We did not see her poison her." Yun Sheng shrugged. "I only said that the cause of the illness was in her body. I did not say that she poisoned her." When Xian Mimi heard that, she immediately stopped crying. She glared angrily. "Yun Sheng, what do you mean by that?" Everyone at the side was also confused when they heard this. "His Majesty the Crown Prince, is Empress Min allergic to pollen?" Yun Sheng did not answer directly. Instead, she suddenly asked the crown prince. As soon as she asked, Yunsheng realized that she had said something wrong. Allergy was a word that no one in the boundless continent knew. The crown prince was indeed confused. However, when he smelled the flowers, he seemed to have thought of something. Mother does not like flowers. There are no flowers in her palace, and the rouge and face powder that she uses on a daily basis. Empress Min's palace was different from the other concubines' palace. There were no flowers at all. They were all potted plants like pine and bamboo. Yunsheng also noticed this. That's because Empress Min is allergic to pollen. If the crown prince does not know, the palace servants who serve Empress Min closely will understand. Yunsheng indeed called an old female official who served Empress Min. The latter also admitted that if Empress Min came into contact with pollen, her face would easily swell and her entire body would itch. Therefore, Empress Min hated flowers. People in the ancient times did not know that this was allergy. When Xianmimi heard that, she suddenly thought of something. When I entered the palace, I plucked a flower. However, it was just an ordinary flower. How could it? At that time, she thought that she was jealous that Yuan Bupo called Yunsheng his sweetheart. Therefore, she tore a flower. The flower that you tore is not an ordinary flower. It's called serene epiphyllum. It's a flower with heavy pollen. Empress Min must have held your hand and greeted you after seeing you. In the end, she accidentally came into contact with the pollen. In addition, the food that you drank that night contained allergic foods such as fresh fruits and peanuts. Empress Min accidentally ate it and went into shock due to the allergic reaction. As Yunsheng spoke, a burst of cheers came from the palace. A few female officials who served Empress Min ran out with a face full of surprise. She's awake. We followed divine physician Yun's instructions and collected fresh honey from the palace's imperial garden. After the empress drank it, Her Majesty the Empress woke up. Crown Prince Li Cheng was overjoyed when he saw this. He quickly walked in. Emperor Tang Yuan also walked forward. Empress Min had indeed woken up. When she saw the worried Crown Prince and Emperor Tang Yuan, she smiled weakly. This is too miraculous. Yunsheng, you were clearly not present. How did you know what happened last night? Also, you said that the allergic reaction and shock were cured by drinking honey? Yuan Bupo was speechless when he saw this. Because he was a physician, he used golden needles or bitter medicine to treat his patients. Who knew that Yunsheng did not use any of those? She only called them out and looked at their hands and smelled their clothes? Xianmimi's face was pale as she clenched her fists. However, Empress Min had fallen ill because of her. Although the responsibility for this matter was not on her, Brother Bupo and the Crown Prince's gaze when they looked at her just now carried a hint of blame. How would she know that old woman Empress Min was allergic to some pollen? Chapter 460. How could a normal person not be able to smell pollen at all? Tang Yuan's imperial physicians were also amazed by Yunsheng's miraculous medical skills. They all gathered around and said that they wanted to discuss with Yunsheng and ask about the treatment of this illness. Yunsheng had a bitter smile on his face. How could she explain? She couldn't tell these doctors from the boundless world. The real cause of Min Ho's illness was very simple. It was a coma caused by allergies. Fresh honey, especially the bees raised in the imperial garden, had pollen grains that could resist allergies in their honey. This was the real reason why Min Ho woke up. She could only beat around the bush. When Li Xiao and Empress Su saw this, they were very bored. Just as they were about to sneak away, Yunsheng caught them with her sharp eyes. Your Majesty's second prince, don't forget the agreement you made with this commoner earlier. Yunsheng was all smiles. Her eyes curved into two crescent moons as she smiled. Li Xiao could only stay reluctantly. After Min Ho woke up, Yunsheng ordered the female palace servants to prepare some fresh dates. Yunsheng told Min Ho that allergies were not completely incurable. Min Ho could add some fresh honey and fresh dates into his daily diet. These foods could alleviate the symptoms of allergies and even slowly change Min Ho's constitution. Min Ho had been troubled by allergies for many years, but the imperial physicians had been helpless for many years. When she was young, she also fainted occasionally because of allergies, but it was not as serious as this time. Yunsheng smiled and suddenly said, Minho, do you know who planted the most pollen of the nether epiphyllum outside your morning dew palace? I heard that the nether epiphyllum is Empress Sue's favorite flower. Those flowers outside your door were planted by Empress Sue herself. On the sickbed, Minho's gaze darkened slightly as he looked meaningfully at Yunsheng. After Minho took some medicine, the people waiting outside also entered the palace one by one to pay their respects. Second Prince, I've heard about your agreement with Miracle Dr. Yun. After Minho woke up, Crown Prince Li Cheng told her about how Empress Su stopped the Min family from entering the palace and insulted the godly doctor while she was unconscious. Along with the serene, serious flower incident, Minho hated Empress Su and the second prince to the core. Sister, Imperial concubine Su still wanted to plead for her son. She looked at Emperor Tang Yuan plaintively. Empress, the Emperor of Tang Yuan, who was standing at the side, received the signal from his favorite concubine and wanted to help. Earlier, he had only wanted to calm Yunsheng down. After thinking about it, since he had already bestowed the title of National Master to her, and the second Imperial Prince had always been proud, it was indeed difficult for him to pour tea and apologize to her. Your Majesty, the most important thing for us in the Imperial family is trust. Your Majesty's words are like gold and jade. If you go back on your words now, wouldn't you be ridiculed by the world? Empress Min said sarcastically. Only now did Yunsheng realize that although Empress Min's appearance was average, she was very smart. No wonder she could stand firmly in the harem for so many years without collapsing. In this aspect, Empress Min was probably better than Empress Li of Zhou State. Emperor Tang Yuan was speechless. After a while, he said in a low voice, Come, serve the tea. Second Prince Li Xiao's body couldn't help but stiffen. Ever since he was born, he had never been so humiliated in front of so many people like today. But since the Emperor of Tang Yuan had spoken, he couldn't say anything else. He could only take the tea against his will. Yunsheng, on the other hand, sat comfortably at the side. The second prince, Li Xiao, placed the tea in front of Yunsheng. Yunsheng didn't take it. She said coldly, Second prince, you forgot something. The veins on Li Xiao's temples throbbed. If looks could kill, Li Xiao's entire body would have already been pierced with hundreds of holes. He said in a muffled voice, Great National Master Yun, I apologize to your master. Second prince, you're too polite. Yunsheng took the tea and sipped it comfortably. She was secretly pleased. Empress Min's matter came to an end. Yunsheng was conferred the title of Emperor of Tang Yuan. Ru Yi also returned to the Dharma Temple with the news. The first thing Ru Yi did when he returned to the Dharma Temple was to inform Ji Yu of this matter. Ji Yu had already divined Empress Min's fortune. Empress Min's fortune was indeed ominous, but he didn't accurately predict that a noble would come from the southwest. He immediately ordered someone to call Xiao Wenxiu over. This was also the first time Ji Yu had summoned Xiao Wenxiu after his return. Ru Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Master was finally willing to forgive his junior brother. His junior brother was 10 years younger than him. When he first came to the Dharma Temple, he was only 3 or 4 years old. He had a delicate appearance, and the seniors in the Dharma Temple all liked him. However, he had always been polite to others. Although Master was the harshest towards this disciple, Rui knew that Master doted on his junior brother the most. In his memory, Master had never been angry for so long like today. It seemed that this time, he had to thank that female doctor from Zhou State. Xiao Wenxiu leisurely arrived. When he saw Ji Yu, he calmly called out, Master. Ji Yu only responded with an Just like that, the master and disciple resolved the knot in their hearts. Ru Yi recounted the entire incident. Even Elder Si Ming was stunned when he heard this. Although he was skilled in magic because of his good relationship with Wendagua, he also had some knowledge of ancient medical techniques. That female doctor from Zhou State's method was very bold. This was definitely not the style of the Medicine Emperor's Pavilion. What's more, poisoning caused by allergies was unheard of in the continent. What did that female doctor look like? What surprised Ru even more was Xiao Wenxiu. In his impression, his junior brother was rarely interested in people. Moreover, the other party was just a stranger. Very ordinary. Her skin was sallow, and she looked very thin. If she didn't say anything, I would have thought that she was a patient. Rui was used to seeing handsome men and beautiful women in the Dharma Temple. He really didn't like Yun Sheng's appearance. She wasn't Yun Sheng? Xiao Wenxu's eyes dimmed. He didn't know what to say. What's her name? Is she from the Medicine Emperor's Pavilion? Elder Ming noticed Xiao Wenxu's expression. His white eyebrows twitched as he asked casually. She said that she's the disciple of the imperial doctor from Zhou State's Medicine Emperor's Pavilion. Her name is Yun Sheng, Rui said. Xiao Wenxu's expression didn't change. It's her Wenxu. That doctor called Yun Sheng. Is she the woman who created the Saint Grade pill and the Moon God's tribute? Elder Ming probed. Elder Ming glanced at Xiao Wenxu. He didn't find anything strange. Perhaps he was being paranoid. His disciple had always been indifferent. He definitely wouldn't fall in love with a woman. Chapter 461. Elder Ming couldn't help but laugh at his own suspicions. What? You're saying that she's the legendary female magician? She's a dual cultivator of magic medicine and ancient medicine, the one who forced the Medicine Emperor Pavilion to retreat? Rui was surprised. He didn't expect that the sickly doctor who looked so ordinary was the female magician who was causing trouble for the temple these days. The mystery of the moon god's praise was still unknown to the temple. Even Rui and the other magicians were clueless. That's her. Speaking of which, Wenxu, you stayed in the little Xiantong for a while, but you didn't hear any news about the moon god's praise? Elder Ming didn't give up. Earlier, when Dagwa's subordinate had sent a letter saying that he should pay attention to Xiao Wenxu. He said that Xiao Wenxu got along well with the people in the little Xiantong. Elder Ming, Gu, understood Xiao Wenxu very well. This disciple of his, due to his background, treated people with gentleness. But only those who were close to him would know that under that layer of gentleness, there was indifference. He treated people with gentleness, neither happy nor sad, because he never put those people in his eyes. How could he get along with others to such an extent? Xiao Wenxu said in his usual tone, "This disciple is useless. I didn't find any clues. If I knew that she was Yun Sheng, I would have..." Sigh. It's too late to say it now. After Minho's illness was cured, the Tang Yuan Emperor was very happy and bestowed Yun Sheng with the title of Tang Yuan Imperial Hand. When Rui said this, Elder Ming took a deep breath. You said that Yun Sheng was bestowed with the title of Tang Yuan Imperial Hand? This is ridiculous. How old is she this year? She's not more than 10 years old. How many years has she been practicing medicine? I'm afraid she hasn't even been practicing medicine for 3 years. How can she be called an imperial hand with such qualifications? If Elder Ming's good friend, when Dagwa, knew that a little girl enjoyed the same glory as him, he would be furious. Xiao Wenxu secretly sighed in his heart. Master, do you know that the little girl you speak of has medical skills that can shock the entire continent? After Elder Ming heard this news, he was not in the mood to talk anymore. Yun Sheng was a citizen of Zhou State, but she was appointed as the national master of Tang Yuan. This news will soon spread in the mainland. At that time, the reputation of Little Xiantong will rise. If she were to perform outstandingly in this area, or if she were to concoct a potion of a higher grade than the moon goddess's praise, the reputation of the temple would be suppressed. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion was a good example to learn from. When Dagwa was not in the mood to say more and left with Rui. Yuji, you can leave as well, Xiao Wenxu said in a low voice. Yuji nodded. The room regained its tranquility. Xiao Wenxu's calm and emotionless face suddenly changed slightly. It was as if a crack had suddenly appeared in a glacier that had been frozen for thousands of years. It was also as if a bright sun had suddenly appeared in a cloudy sky. In that instant, Xiao Wenxu had turned from a saint to a mortal. His expression became soft, with inexplicable feelings, and the corners of his mouth unconsciously rose. Yun Sheng, it really is you. You are also in Tang Yuan now. He took out a piece of paper from his sleeve. On the paper, the woman's beautiful handwriting scribbled a few lines. The secret of the moon goddess's praise was on this paper. Xiao Wenshu knew that he should have burned this paper, so that no one else would know about the secret of the moon goddess's praise except for Yun Sheng and himself. However, he was reluctant to burn the only thing beside him that had traces of Yun Sheng. He sighed softly, spread out the paper again, and read it over and over again. The potion formed by the conflict of two opposite magic elements was refined under the high-grade moon goddess's praise. Two opposite magic elements. The world only said that Yun Sheng was a genius doctor, but who would have thought that her biggest secret was not her medical skills, but her secret was dark magic soul. Only those who possessed a dark magic soul could withstand the magical conflict caused by the conflicting magical elements of the opposite magical attributes. Yun Sheng's body contained a powerful dark magic soul. This secret was also the real reason why Xiao Wenshu concealed the secret of the moon goddess's praise. He put the paper away again. Xiao Wenshu could not help but envy the northern underworld prince of Zhou State. Compared to that man who did not have the shackles of imperial power. Although he was a priest of the Dharma Temple and was known as one of the Wuji Five Walls, there was never a day where he could truly do things according to his heart. Even if he knew that Yun Sheng was in Tang Yuan, and he missed her day and night, he still could not get close to her. The only thing he could do was to protect her in his own way from the other side. Inside Tang Yuan's Morning Dew Palace. Miracle Dr. Yun, no, I should call you Great Master Yun now. Min Ho and Crown Prince Li Cheng held a banquet to entertain Yun Sheng, Yuan Bupo, Xian Mimi, and the others. After Min Ho found out the cause of the illness, she recovered very quickly. This time, Min Ho escaped from death. She rejoiced and felt even more grateful to Yun Sheng. The Empress is too polite. The Empress is blessed by the heavens. Yun Sheng was only lucky to find out the cause of the illness. After Yun Sheng thought about it, she also felt that her luck was not bad. Who would have thought that Min Ho's allergy would lead to bronchitis, which led to fainting and going into shock? If such a case did not happen to one of her good university friends, she was afraid that she would not have discovered it. Min Ho had a good impression of Yun Sheng. When she was talking to Yun Sheng, she could not help but look at Yun Sheng. The more Min Ho talked with this woman, the more she found that this woman was exceptionally intelligent. Min Ho had spent her life in the palace and had seen countless people. She had previously thought that Yun Sheng was only good in medicine because of her ordinary appearance. However, after talking in detail, she found that this woman was very knowledgeable, bold, and meticulous. Her inadequacies in appearance could be ignored when compared to her intelligence and heart. Compared to the unruly Xian Mimi, wouldn't it be better if her son could marry such a woman as the crown prince consort? That day at the banquet, Min Ho could see that Xian Mimi and second Prince Li Xiao were chatting happily. This woman's temperament was unstable, and she was easily confused by appearances. Crown Prince Li Cheng was docile and did not know how to be flexible. If he married Xian Mimi, he might not be able to gain any benefits in the future. However, Min Ho felt that Yun Sheng was a good candidate. After asking around, Min Ho found out that not only was Yun Sheng's medical skills good, but her family background was also very good. She was actually the granddaughter of Yun Ba, the famous martial saint of Zhou State. Miss Yun, are you married yet? My son, Li Cheng, has a pure and honest personality and is a good match. Why don't? Min Ho suddenly changed the topic. When she asked this, the hands of the people present at the banquet trembled. Chapter 462. Especially Yuan Bupo. The wine glass in his hand had been crushed into pieces. He did not even realize that he had spilled the wine all over his body. Yun Sheng was also very embarrassed. For a moment, what kind of show was this? Strange things happened every year. Were the empresses and crown princes stupid? Her name was Yun Sheng, not Tang Sanzang. Why was she so popular all of a sudden? She had even used a disguise spell to make herself look like a soybean sprout. How could someone like that be interested in her? She was a virgin girl, a virgin girl. At her age, she would be charged with kidnapping a young girl in modern times. However, looking at Crown Prince Li Cheng's expression, he was extremely dissatisfied. Yunsheng mocked him secretly. Even if you're not willing, I am not willing. This young lady's fiancé is 1,000 times better than you. Fortunately, Yunsheng had been with Yi Baiming for a long time. She had learned the trick of a sly fox, which was to counter every move. Thank you for your kindness, Empress. The Crown Prince is filial and humble. There must be many young ladies in Tang Yuan State who are willing to marry him. Moreover, Yunsheng is already engaged. Her fiancé is Lord Baiming of Zhou State. Yunsheng looked shy. She thought to herself that it was very useful to have a fiancé as a shield during critical moments. After blocking the Dark Crown Prince and Tang Yuanmin, it worked every time. The engagement between Yunsheng and Yi Baiming was not announced to the public. Therefore, not many people knew about it. Yuan Bupo felt a buzz in his head when he heard that. He could not even hear the sounds around him. There was only one sentence in his head. Thank you for your kindness, Empress. Yunsheng is already engaged. Yunsheng's fiancé is Lord Baiming of Zhou State. Lord Baiming of Zhou State. She was already engaged. Why had he never heard her mention it? Yuan Bupo felt a dull pain in his heart. Then he thought of something. It was just a marriage arrangement. It didn't mean anything. Didn't Big Sister and Xian Wuji also have an engagement in the past? However, Big Sister and Yun Songlong fell in love with each other and ended up together. Although her eldest sister's appearance was completely ruined, her eldest brother-in-law's care for her was not affected in the slightest. He didn't care whether Yunsheng was engaged or not. She was the daughter of an aristocratic family. She must have been forced into this marriage because of the imperial decree. It was rumored that the Crown Prince of Zhou State was an idiot. That Lord Baiming must also be a good-for-nothing. How could he be compared to him, who was handsome and proficient in music? Yes, that must be it. Yunsheng was forced. As long as I worked harder, she would fall in love with me. At that time, the engagement and the North Underworld King would be thrown to the back of my mind. At worst, I'll elope with her in the future. Yuan Bupo had already come up with a series of plans in his head. All that was left was the name of their child in the future. Minho was disappointed when he heard that. It was a pity that such a good girl was already engaged. However, Minho quickly composed himself. Yunsheng pretended to lead the topic to women's beauty and maintenance. Minho was indeed interested. He threw away the idea of matching his son to a matchmaker. On one side, Yunsheng and the Empress were chatting happily. On the other side, Yuan Bupo's mind was filled with thoughts of eloping. Crown Prince Li Cheng and Xian Mimi heaved a sigh of relief. Li Cheng heaved a sigh of relief. Naturally, it was because he didn't want to marry such an ordinary-looking girl as his crown princess. He still had fantasies about Xian Mimi. Xian Mimi, who had been a delicate guest earlier, was suddenly left out. She was originally very unhappy. However, when she heard that Minho was going to arrange a marriage for Crown Prince Li Cheng to Yunsheng, she immediately perked up. However, Yunsheng rejected him directly. That meant that she was engaged. If that was the case, Brother Bupo should give up, right? Xian Mimi couldn't help but look in Yuan Bupo's direction. However, he was staring at Yunsheng with a strange look in his eyes. He didn't look like he was depressed or had given up at all. Xian Mimi was annoyed when she saw that. She was even more jealous of Yunsheng. After the banquet, Crown Prince Li Cheng prepared a few carriages to send Yunsheng and the others back. Many thanks to Great Imperial Master Yun. This Imperial Master Medallion was entrusted to me by Imperial Father to bestow upon you. In the future, with this medallion, Great Imperial Master Yun can move unimpeded within the borders of Tang Yuan without any identity checks. Although Li Cheng was unwilling to marry Yunsheng, he was still very grateful to her for saving his mother's life. Crown Prince, you don't have to be so formal. It's just a small matter. Crown Prince is kind and benevolent. Empress Min is the mother of the country. Naturally, you are blessed. When I was in Zhou State, I often heard Lord Baiming mention you. Yunsheng smiled. She thought for a while and suddenly said softly, Crown Prince, if there's a chance, you can get closer to Zhou State's Lord Biming. Just say that I recommended you. Crown Prince Li Cheng was slightly stunned. However, he immediately understood. Yun Sheng's words meant that she wanted him to join forces with Zhou State's Lord Biming. However, Lord Biming of Zhou State was just a dethroned crown prince who had fallen out of favor, Li Cheng muttered in his heart. He thought that he should return to the palace and discuss with his mother before making a decision. Yun Sheng didn't say much. She acted as if she didn't say anything and got into the carriage. The carriage sent the three of them back to the inn. Yun Sheng said in her heart, "Second Princely Shao, if I don't trick you to death, my name isn't Yun Sheng." After Crown Prince Li Cheng received Yun Sheng's reminder, he hurriedly returned to Morning Dew Palace. Queen Min had just recovered from a serious illness. She drank some wine during the banquet, so she was a little dispirited. She was letting a palace maid massage her temples. When Li Cheng saw Queen Min, he complained, "Mother, why did you randomly matchmake me? I don't like that miracle Dr. Yin at all." Queen Min raised her phoenix eyes and waved her hand, indicating for the palace maid behind her to leave. When only the mother and son were left in the palace, Queen Min's face was filled with anger. She reprimanded, "Cheng-er, you're really becoming more and more useless. How did I teach you? You can't just look at appearances. It's your loss if you can't marry Miracle Dr. Yun. It's also our Tang Yuan's loss. If she wasn't good, why would Yuan Bupo keep nagging about her?" Seeing that Queen Min was angry, Li Cheng hurriedly went forward and massaged Queen Min's shoulders. He said carefully, "Mother, I know my mistake. Ever since Ing Yue's death, I haven't had any feelings for anyone. I've met that Xian Mimi before. I was indeed moved. That's why." Moved? Beauty is just a fleeting moment. No matter how beautiful a woman is, how many years can she be pampered? An emperor's wife is chosen based on virtue and not appearance. How do you think Ing Yue died? She was killed by that bitch, Empress Su. Queen Min's expression was gloomy. It was poles apart from her benevolent appearance during the day. How could Queen Min not know about the dirty things in Tang Yuan's harem? It wasn't just Tang Yuan. Every palace in the boundless continent was like this. Chapter 463. It was a pity that her mother's family had been weakened over the years. She was also getting older and couldn't keep the emperor's favor. When Ing Yue was pregnant for 9 months, her body was always strong. If she gave birth to a child, he would be the first grandchild of the imperial family. Li Cheng's position as crown prince would be more stable. When Empress Su found out, she secretly killed Ing Yue. When Crown Princess Ing Yue was about to give birth, she lost a lot of blood. When the child was born, he had been suffocated for a long time. It was a full-term baby boy. "Mother, why did you hide this from me?" When Crown Prince Li Cheng heard this, he felt like the world was spinning. He had never thought that his crown princess and his son were killed by Empress Su and her son. Ing Yue was his first wife. Their temperament was similar. The couple was deeply in love. "If I didn't hide it from you, wouldn't you fight Empress Su? If you don't like Yunxing's looks, you can take a concubine. With her medical skills, she can help you deal with Empress Su and her son. She can make your concubines give birth to children. Xian Mimi can't compare to her in this aspect alone." "Biming Wang of Zhou State is so lucky," Minho said enviously. Crown Prince Li Cheng was silent. He understood Minho's meaning. This time, Minho's poison suddenly flared up. If it wasn't for a coincidence, his life would be even more difficult after his mother died. After knowing the truth, Crown Prince Li Cheng hated Li Xiao and her son even more. But after his mother was poisoned and Empress Su and her son covered the sky with one hand, Crown Prince Li Cheng grew some brains. He suddenly remembered the person Yun Xing told him about. "Mother, I have another thing to report. Just now, Dr. Yun mentioned Biming Wang to me. She seems to want to make me cooperate with Biming Wang," Li Cheng said in a low voice. When Queen Min heard this, she was a little surprised at first, but she quickly understood. "The North Nether King's fiancé saved my life. According to etiquette, you should prepare a gift as a reward." Biming Wang, Tang Yuan, Crown Prince Li Cheng sent a gift. In Wushuan Wuji Pavilion, Yi Baiming suddenly received a gift. Tang Yuan and Li Cheng. Yi Baiming was a little unfamiliar with this name. He was a nosy prince. He didn't have a position in the court and didn't have much contact with the envoys and princes of other countries. However, some time ago, he robbed Tang Yuan's second prince Li Xiao of a batch of purple gold Oregon. However, Yi Baiming believed that Li Xiao would never know that it was him, a nameless former crown prince of Zhou state, who had stolen his ore. This prince does not have any dealings with the Tang Yuan kingdom, so there's no need for a gift of thanks. Throw it out, Yi Baiming coldly replied. But the other party said that this gift is related to His Highness's little fiancé, Divine Dr. Yun. About the little wild cat? Yi Baiming raised his beautiful eyebrows. The little wild cat actually ran to Tang Yuan? Shouldn't she be in the Grand Emperor city? After ordering someone to bring in the gift of thanks, Yi Baiming received a gift letter from Tang Yuan's crown prince Li Cheng. The letter was personally written by Li Cheng. It said that when Yun Sheng was passing by Tang Yuan, she was ambushed. She happened to pass by Tang Yuan and accidentally saved Tang Yuan Min. After that, she was conferred the title of Great Tang's national champion. When he saw the word ambushed, Yi Baiming's expression changed slightly. Crown Prince Li Cheng's words all pointed to Tang Yuan's Li Xiao as the culprit. Li Xiao again. Yi Baiming's thin lips slightly pursed. A biting cold murderous aura flitted across his eyebrows. When he saw the two words Yun Sheng, the murderous aura suddenly disappeared. Like the sun after the rain, a somewhat evil smile appeared on his foxy face. The little wild cat admitted that he was her fiancé in front of outsiders. Although he couldn't help but be a shield, Yi Baiming was incomparably carefree. This little wild cat was indeed someone who didn't know her place. It seemed that Li Xiao had angered her. This fellow was very lazy and pushed her to his side. Forget it. Someone who offended his little fiancé would not be able to escape the word death sooner or later. The Tang Yuan kingdom was the headquarters of the Dharma temple. Sooner or later, he would devour Tang Yuan. It was just that the time was not right yet. Since the little wild cat had spoken, no matter how cowardly and incompetent Crown Prince Li Cheng was, he could still make him a puppet emperor of Tang Yuan. A wave of dark magic elements fluctuated in Yi Baiming's hand. Li Cheng's letter immediately turned into a wisp of green smoke. Li Cheng sent news of Yun Sheng. This made Yi Baiming happy, but also somewhat angry. After not seeing the little wild cat for a while, she ran all over the continent. At the end of the letter, Crown Prince Li Cheng mentioned that Yun Sheng and the others were going to the Immortal Residence. Immortal Residence country? They were probably looking for the water of life. Yi Baiming immediately understood. Something must have happened in the Grand Emperor city for Yun Sheng to change her mind and go to the Immortal Residence. This was too much. Yi Baiming couldn't help but feel a little angry. The Immortal Residence country was not a place where people could go as they pleased. Although the elves were a peace-loving race, they were also the race that hated humans the most on the continent. But with the little wild cat's intelligence and the rich gold, it shouldn't be a big problem. It was just that the Immortal Residence country was thousands of miles away from Zhou state. Even with flying magical beasts, it would still take 2 months to go back and forth. If there was any delay in the middle, they might miss the selection of the continent's magic elite camp. He hadn't had time to inform Yun Sheng about this matter. Because of their Dharma souls, he and Yun Sheng had an inexplicable bond. Their thoughts could resonate. However, there was a prerequisite. The prerequisite was that both of them were willing. Last time in the Earth's core smelted cave, after accidentally catching a glimpse of the little wild cat's disheveled appearance, her face was full of disdain. She strongly expressed that if Yi Baiming dared to rashly resonate with her thoughts next time, she wouldn't spare him. Although he liked the little wild cat's appearance when she occasionally lost her cool and bared her fangs and brandished her claws, Yi Baiming was still unwilling to be angry with Yun Sheng. It seemed that he could only wait until she contacted him before telling her this news. After leaving Bientang, Yun Sheng removed the disguise spell on her body. This time, Li Xiao's sneak attack was a blessing in disguise. With the title of Tang Yuan's great national master, Yunsheng's following journey through Tang Yuan's border was very smooth. Crown Prince Li Cheng had even arranged for the best inns for them to stay in. This made Yunsheng feel like she wasn't going to the immortal residence to seek the water of life, but was going on a vacation. Moreover, she could clearly feel that there was something wrong with Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi. Xian Mimi's resentment towards her had increased significantly. She looked as if she had killed her entire family. Yuan Bupo was the exact opposite. His eagerness towards her had obviously exceeded the level of a friend. For example, during mealtimes, he would continuously put food on her plate. Early in the morning, he would play the flute outside her room. Yunsheng, what do you want to hear? I'll play it for you. Yuan Bupo blinked his eyes. Chapter 464. It was another morning where she could meditate properly. Yunsheng had no choice but to walk out of her room after being played by the flute. Dihong's song. Yunsheng was not a fool. Since Yuan Bupo had to play the flute every day, she might as well let him play the last 3 chapters of the Dihong song. Yun Songlong had only taught Yunsheng the first 3 chapters of the Dihong song. Yun Songlong and Yuan Xiahua had only pledged their lives to each other. Yuan Xiahua was cautious and did not dare to teach Yun Songlong the last 3 chapters of the Yuan family. Yuan Bupo was put in a difficult position when he heard that Yunsheng wanted to listen to the last few chapters of the Dihong song. He scratched his head and stole a glance at Yunsheng. In the morning, Yunsheng looked as if she had brought morning dew. She was exceptionally beautiful. The Dihong song can't be taught to outsiders, unless you're from the Dihong city. Yuan Bupo stuttered when he said the short sentence. He was tactful enough. If the same words came out from the night fox's mouth, it would definitely sound different. That fox would definitely say in a domineering manner, "You can listen to it, but you have to be my woman." Yunsheng pursed her lips and turned to leave. She was really not interested in the Dihong city. Yuan Bupo thought that she was angry, so he stopped her in a hurry. His face that was as handsome as a woman's had a layer of red glow that resembled the morning glow. "I'm afraid of you. I'll boast. However, this is the only time." Yuan Bupo was able to show a cold face to other women. However, when facing Yunsheng, he was unable to harden his heart. "Just this once," Yunsheng said slyly. Yuan Bupo would never have thought that Yunsheng's memory was extraordinary. The Dihong song, which was difficult for others to understand and memorize in one go, was difficult for her. She only needed to listen to it once to memorize it. Yuan Bupo really started playing the Dihong song. This was a famous ancient song. Every chapter was different, and the effects it produced were also very different. In the end, Xian Mimi's expression changed when she heard the flute music. When she arrived at the courtyard, she saw Yuan Bupo standing beside Yunsheng. He was looking at Yunsheng affectionately, and she was the only one in his eyes. Yunsheng, on the other hand, was lazily sitting on a stone table, listening to the sound of the flute. Brother Bupo actually played the last 3 chapters of the Imperial Hong Pavilion to an outsider. I must tell father about this matter. If the people outside of Grand Empress City learn the Dihong song, only death awaits them. Yunsheng, don't be complacent. When I find the water of life, it will be the time of your death. Xian Mimi stomped her feet and ran away. After Yunsheng heard the last 3 chapters of the Dihong song, she hurriedly sent Yuan Bupo away. She closed her door and recorded the 4th to 6th chapters of the Dihong song. Yunsheng always had an inexplicable sense of familiarity with the Dihong song. It was as if the Dihong song and the techniques passed down in the Yin family naturally complemented each other. With Yunsheng's current cultivation, the Jade Marrow technique had broken through to the 4th level with the techniques passed down in her family. Shinong's eyes were at the 3rd level, and Trillium Hand was at the 3rd level. Her summoner level was at the wizard level, and her sorcerer level was at the master level. This kind of progress was very shocking. Part of it was due to luck, but a bigger part of it was due to Yunsheng's hard work and the accumulation of her 2 lifetimes. Recently, she realized that the speed of her progress in teaching the techniques at home had slowed down. Thinking about it, she had reached the bottleneck. If she continued like this, She was afraid that she would not be able to reach the supreme level of Shinnong's ancestor, the Yin Emperor. Ever since she learned how to meditate, she rarely slept. Whenever she had time, she would go to the Royal Magic Academy and use the magic tower to comprehend magic. However, she realized that there were too many masters in the Wuji continent. If she did not have the summoning magic beasts and tycoon gold, she would have died a few times. Therefore, ever since she realized that the Dihong song might be able to help her achieve a breakthrough in her techniques, Yinsheng had never slacked off. Legend had it that the Dihong song had 9 chapters. Today, Yuan Bupo played the 4th, 5th, and 6th chapters of the Dihong song. As for the 7th, 8th, and 9th chapters, it was said that only people from the Dihong city who entered the legendary emperor's tomb had the chance to obtain them. Even the governor of the Dihong city, Xin Sitian, only obtained 2 chapters of the Dihong song by luck when he entered the emperor's tomb. Yunsheng looked through the chapters that she obtained and realized that she was not familiar with music theory. She could not ask Yuan Bupo directly. After thinking about it, she could only come up with one method, which was to ask Yi Baiming. Yi Baiming was cultivating when he suddenly felt something strange in his heart. Then he smiled. The resonance between Yunsheng and Yi Baiming's Dharma soul was quite interesting. In a sense, it was like a modern internet communication tool. Their thoughts were like the internet, and their resonance was like QQ online. Usually, if Yunsheng was not willing, even if Yi Baiming contacted her a million times, she would just go into hiding. However, the moment Yunsheng contacted Yi Baiming, he would immediately jump up and down. Yi Baiming was dissatisfied with this situation, but he could not do anything to Yunsheng. Just like what Chengbai said, Yunsheng was his destined nemesis. Little wild cat, you've thought of me. Yi Baiming, I obtained the last 3 chapters of the Dihong song, but there are some problems with the music. Can you let me take a look? Yunsheng had not seen Yi Baiming for a long time. In her mind, Yi Baiming's devilish face appeared. After not seeing him for a long time, Yi Baiming seemed to have become, well, even better looking. Yeah, Yunsheng noticed that this fox had changed. He was wearing a training suit, and there was sweat on his forehead. The Yi Baiming that Yunsheng knew was a nosy prince. The first time they met, he was sleeping on a tree. She had never seen him cultivating. Every time they met, he would hug and hug her. If he could sit, he would never stand. If he could lie down, he would never sit. But today, he was actually cultivating. His sweat soaked his clothes and made them stick to his body, outlining his firm but not too exaggerated muscles. His waist was narrow, his legs were long, and his buttocks were perky. He gave off an aura that made people want to commit a crime. Yunsheng only felt her face turn red. She almost stopped resonating with Yi Baiming's thoughts. Perhaps Yi Baiming noticed Yunsheng's strange behavior, so he lowered his voice and chuckled. There was a hint of pride in his voice. Suddenly, he thought of something and frowned. The last few chapters of the Dihong song should be a secret. How did you get your hands on it? Don't tell me that you're also a master thief while you're a master doctor. What nonsense are you talking about? Yuan Bupo bragged to me. I memorized it all in one go. In front of Yi Baiming, Yunsheng did not need to hide anything. Due to the spiritual resonance, Yunsheng always had a feeling that Yi Baiming could see through her at any time. Yuan Bupo, from the Yuan family of Grand Emperor City. Yuan Bupo? A man? Yi Baiming lowered his voice. Thank you everyone for your tips. I can't thank you individually, but I've received your support. Fuzi is not a full-time writer, so I can't explode with a lot of words. I can only promise that I'll try my best to maintain the 10,000 words per chapter. If the subscriptions can go up and I can get the website's recommendation, my little universe will explode. I'll rest for 3 days during National Day, and I'll work hard to write. Thank you to every reader who supported me, voted, and left a message. You're all the motivation for me to become a full-time writer. Chapter 465. In Yunsheng's ears, it was like someone was blowing air into her ear. Yunsheng remembered that day in the medicinal hall when Yi Baiming bit her earlobe. Her heart suddenly jumped. He's second aunt's younger brother, Yunsheng blurted out. However, she thought angrily inside. Why did she have to explain it to Night Fox? Little Wild Cat, you seem to have forgotten something. You're now a married woman. In the future, you're not allowed to mention any other men in front of me. Otherwise, the next time we meet, I'll properly teach you your duty as a fiancé, Yi Baiming said domineeringly. Night Fox, are you jealous? Yunsheng suddenly understood. She was jealous. I'm jealous, Yi Baiming said matter-of-factly. Our engagement is just a cover-up, Yunsheng said helplessly. This kid actually took it seriously. She would not discuss marriage with a youth who was younger than her by n years. Since the engagement is set, then you're mine. There's one more thing that I have to tell you. Regardless of whether or not you can find the water of life, you have to hurry back to Zhou State in 2 months. Yi Baiming did not want to push Yunsheng too far. He had known Yunsheng for many years. He also knew that the little wild cat was different from any other woman he knew. She valued friendship, but she was most afraid of restrictions. For some reason, she was especially slow when it came to the feelings of men and women. Whether it was Yuan Bupo, Dugu Xiao, or Xiao Wenshu from the Temple of Dharma whom he hated the most, they all had feelings for her. However, she could ignore them. If she wasn't naturally slow, then she was naturally a little fool when it came to feelings. However, this was also good. Once he kidnapped her into the elite camp of the mainland and cut her off from everyone else, he would have plenty of ways to train the little fool. This was also why Yi Baiming did not hesitate to use a marriage contract to tie Yunsheng down. 2 months? We haven't reached the Immortal Keeper Nation yet, so we're still in a bit of a rush. Yunsheng wasn't too sure. In 2 months, the selection for the Continental Magic Elite Camp will begin. This time, you must obtain this spot. Yunsheng went to the Wushuan Limitless Martial Arts School in the name of an exchange student. At that time, the exchange period agreed upon by the martial arts school and the academy was 4 years, which was limited to the next divine artifact search. However, during this period of time, Yunsheng's student status remained in the Royal Magic Academy. This also meant that she had the qualifications to participate in the Royal Magic Academy selection this time. However, the prerequisite was that Yunsheng had to rush back before the selection in 2 months. Elite Mage Camp? I've thought about joining the Elite Camp, but I'm not interested in competing with the people from the Royal Magic Academy. Yunsheng still had some recollection of this term. She remembered that when she was in Luoxia City, the female magician called Blue was a member of the Magic Elite Camp of the continent. It was said that the Elite Mage Camp was the headquarters of the geniuses. Geniuses from all over the continent would gather in the Elite Mage Camp to receive the continent's best guidance in magic and battle techniques. However, Yunsheng did not intend to join the Elite Mage Camp. She had never liked to interact with these so-called geniuses. Moreover, since it was the Royal Magic Academy's internal selection, needless to say, Chen Lian would definitely participate. She did not like interacting with Chen Lian. Yunsheng did not realize that she was already a monstrous genius. You must join? Yi Baiming's tone was non-negotiable. This prince wants to join the Elite Mage Camp. What he meant was, if you don't want to see your dear fiancé and Chen Lian being lovey-dovey for the next few years, then you should obediently follow the man you married and follow him to the elite camp of the continent with me. Yunsheng wanted to refute, but for some reason, when she thought of Yi Baiming and Chen Lian's faces overlapping, she felt a little depressed. However, she still refused to admit it. I'm not going. Yi Baiming persisted. If you want to learn dark magic, then you must go to the elite mage camp. When Yunsheng heard about dark magic, she was like a cat that had heard of fish. She immediately perked up. Dark magic? Most of Yunsheng's magic, including wind, earth, water, and fire, had already reached the intermediate level. She had even comprehended some profound magic. However, her dark magic was still stuck at the most basic level. There was no other reason other than the fact that the Mage Temple had banned it, so there were very few opportunities to learn dark magic on the continent. Yunsheng could only rely on the books in the Royal Magic Academy, so there was no way for her to learn dark magic of a higher level. Therefore, when she suddenly heard that the elite mage camp could learn dark magic, Yunsheng had such a reaction. You're not tricking me, are you? How can the elite mage camp break the rules and learn dark magic? Yun Sheng did not understand. The mainland's understanding of dark magic is a little extreme. However, due to the huge influence of the Temple of Sorcery, most countries, including Tang Yuan, rarely see traces of dark magic. However, the mainland's magic elite camp is different. They only have one purpose, which is to pursue the highest level of magic and battle techniques. Regardless of whether it is light magic or dark magic, they're all magic. As Yi Baiming narrated, Yunsheng roughly pictured the mainland's magic elite camp in her mind. It was a concentration camp for warriors and magicians. Everywhere, there were madmen who were obsessed with magic and battle techniques. However, Yunsheng did not feel the slightest bit of fear. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent. This was Yunsheng. Yunsheng was like this, and so was Yi Baiming. I will find a way to rush back. Yunsheng calculated her itinerary. It seemed that she had to change her traveling method. Yunsheng's zither skills had improved under Yi Baiming's guidance. Her performance of the last 3 movements of the Dihong song was also decent. At the end, Yi Baiming did not forget to remind Yunsheng, the power of the Dihong song cannot be displayed without a corresponding instrument. You must not play it rashly. Yunsheng also had a sense of propriety. She had already asked Zhou Qingchuan to use the power of the everlasting Chamber of Commerce to search for a good zither. Before that, she would not use the Dihong song in battle. After a few more days, Yunsheng finally arrived at the border between the Immortal Residence and Tang Yuan. Yunsheng had been to the border between the later Qin and Zhou State. She had also been to the border between Zhou State and Tang Yuan. However, there was no border like the one between Tang Yuan and the Immortal Residence. Most of the countries would build a common city between them. However, there was no city between Tang Yuan and the Immortal Residence. The border of the Immortal Residence is just ahead. We can only send you here. A few of the Tang Yuan guards in charge of escorting them asked. Chapter 466. Yunsheng looked ahead with a face full of suspicion. You're saying that behind the sea of trees is the immortal Zhu nation? Not to mention Yunsheng. Even Yuan Bupa and Xian Mimi were at a loss. They had all heard that the immortal Zhu nation was the Elven nation. It was normal for the Elven nation to have some special features. But this sea of trees? A sea of white that looked like it was covered in snow. Was this really the immortal Zhu nation? This was the most distinct border between the two nations. On one side was the lush Tang Yuan nation, and on the other side was the snowy Snow nation. Yunsheng had originally planned to ask around for the whereabouts of the Divine Wind after entering the immortal Zhu nation. But now, it seemed that she had to find someone from the immortal Zhu nation to ask. Miss Yun, to be exact, that sea of trees is the border of the immortal Zhu nation. The soldiers looked troubled. After some thought, they still explained to Yunsheng. The Sea of White was also known as the Snow Forest Sea. The trees there were white all year round. The Sea of Trees had no borders. No one knew where the end of the Sea of Trees was. But one thing was for sure. The immortal Zhu nation was deep within the Snow Forest Sea. Isn't there a guide? Facing a completely unfamiliar area, Yuan Bupa did not dare to advance recklessly. One thing was for sure. Flying magical beasts could not fly in this area. The Elven tribe and their descendants were very good at magic, especially archery. This was known to all. If they forced their way in, they would be shot into a hornet's nest. To be honest, there are only 2 outcomes for people from the Tang Yuan nation who enter the Snow Forest Sea. Those with pure intentions will return to the exit. But those with evil intentions will never be able to find the exit. They will be trapped in the immortal Zhu nation forever. Therefore, even though this area was the border between the Tang Yuan nation and the immortal Zhu nation, the Tang Yuan nation had never sent a single soldier to guard this place. Because no one would be stupid enough to enter the Snow Forest Sea. Even magical beasts can't enter. Yuan Bupa did not give up. Ordinary magical beasts will freeze to death if they enter the Snow Forest Sea. The queen of the elven race once commanded a divine beast. Tang Yuan's guards shook their heads. Ordinary magical beasts would be so scared that they wouldn't be able to move once they got close. Yuanbu Pu was hesitant. Yin Sheng Mimi, why don't we retreat to the Tang Yuan nation and discuss if we should enter the Snow Forest Sea? No, we must go in, Yun Sheng and Xian Mimi said in unison. This time, they had the same opinion. The two looked at each other and turned their heads away at the same time. Yuan Bu Pu was speechless. Mimi Mimi. Mimi Mimi, of course. Mimi of the immortal Jew nation of the nation of the immortal Jew of the immortal Jew nation. She was my mortal she of Yun Mimi of the life of life. She didn't have much time left. There was only a little more than a month left until the selection of the continent's magic elite camp. She couldn't afford to waste too much time. Xian Mimi, you really dare to go in? Aren't you afraid you won't be able to return? Yunxin wanted to go in, but she was not willing to go in with Xian Mimi. Xian Mimi's chest was not big, but she was not smart either. After leaving the Tang Yuan nation, Xian Mimi had been arguing with her. Since they were already at the immortal residence, Xian Mimi could not be bothered to go with her. Xian Mimi felt guilty after being mocked by Xian Mimi. But in front of Yuan Bu Pa, she would never admit that she did not dare to enter the Snow Forest Sea. If you insist on going in, then we'll take our leave first. The wind from the Snow Forest Sea is bone-chilling. Our cultivation levels are not as high as yours. If we get too much of it, I'm afraid our bodies won't be able to take it. These Tang Yuan soldiers were also magicians. At this moment, they were shivering. Yun Sheng, Yuan Bu Pa, and the rest entered the Snow Forest Sea. When they first entered the Snow Forest Sea, they felt like they had entered a world of ice and snow. The trees in the Snow Forest Sea were completely white. The trunks of the trees were like icicles. The leaves on the trees were like pine needles. But every leaf was sparkling like ice. It was as if they would break with a touch. Walking in the Snow Forest Sea, they could only hear the sound of the wind. A narrow entrance appeared in front of them. It was said that this was the entrance to the Snow Forest Sea. I will walk in front. You two follow behind me. Yuan Bu Pa could not argue with the two of them. He could only bite the bullet and walk forward. It was a coincidence. The three of them had risked their lives in the geocentric cave last time. Now, they were venturing into the Snow Forest Sea together. But compared to the geocentric cave, the Snow Forest Sea was like ice and fire. Little red and blue danced on Yuan Bu Po's body. The red and blue feathers danced happily in the Snow Forest Sea. This place was really cold. Fortunately, Yun Sheng had the spirit fire brand on her body. She could not feel the cold. Yuan Bu Po was a man, so his body was better. Xian Mimi was not so lucky. She was just a sorcerer. Her body was average. After a few steps, she froze and could not walk anymore. Brother Bu Pa, I can't walk anymore, Xian Mimi complained. Carry me. Mimi, let's walk for a while. Eat something and recover some energy before we continue. Yuan Bu Pa glanced at Yun Sheng. At that moment, Yun Sheng was carving a mark on a cedar tree beside her. They had walked for a while, but Yun Sheng had an illusion that they were in the same place. They kept going back and forth. Xian Mimi took out some food from her storage ring. Xian Mimi took out a water bag from her storage ring. She wanted to drink some water, but after a long time, not a single drop of water came out. She took a closer look and realized that the water in the water bag that they had prepared before entering was completely frozen. It was the same for the other water bags. She looked at the food. It was the same. The meat and dry food were all frozen hard. If she bit into them, she would break her teeth. Because of this, the food and water that they had prepared before entering the Snow Forest Sea were all wasted. What the hell is this place? I want to get out. Xian Mimi was anxious and panicked. She threw the water bag on the ground. At this moment, Xian Mimi was truly afraid. Rather than being trapped here to death, she would rather live her life with this ugly face. Yuan Bupo checked his storage ring. The items inside were the same. They were all frozen and could not be used or consumed. This has happened before in the geocentric cave. I think it's due to the influence of a special magic element. The immortal Jew nation was indeed a land of fairies. The magic of outsiders would be greatly affected here. Yunsheng was not too surprised. When Tang Yuan's guards talked about how scary the snow forest sea was, she was already mentally prepared. Chapter 467. Yunsheng also noticed that they had been walking all the way, but they had been circling around the pine tree that they had marked. She and Mimi looked in the direction that they had come from and realized that they were surrounded by paths that looked similar. She could not tell which path was the one that they had come from. If you want to go out by yourself if you can find a way out. Yunsheng grabbed a handful of snow from the ground and put it in her mouth. She chewed a few mouthfuls and felt her cheeks turn cold. However, the snow water here was not bad. It had the fragrance of pine trees. Brother Bupo, she and Mimi did not give up. Shut up. If you make any more noise, I'll leave you alone. Yunsheng glared at Xian Mimi. Mimi stopped fooling around. Yuan Bupo ordered Xiao Honglan to fly higher. Little Honglan flew over and landed on Yuan Bupo's shoulder, chirping nonstop. Lil Honglan said that there's an obstacle in the sky above the forest. It can't fly too high. Yuan Bupo began to feel nervous. He initially thought that no matter how powerful the elf tribe was, it was just a rumor. However, it seemed that they had really hit a wall. They could not see where they were going, and there was no way out. The food in everyone's storage ring was frozen and could not be eaten. If they continued to be trapped like this, only death would await them. Yunsheng was silent. She listened to the sound of the wind. At that moment, the spirit stone on Yunsheng's magic scepter glowed with a green color. Demonic Spirit Soul Stone? Yunsheng's Demonic Spirit Soul Stone was given to her by Shinfeng. It was the first time that the spirit stone glowed. The spirit stone glowed brighter and brighter. A beautiful spirit appeared. The elf was very small, like a small green butterfly, but she had the body of a human and a pair of pointy ears that protruded from the wind. She did not expect the spirit stone given to her by divine wind to suddenly wake up after entering the immortal Jew nation. Perhaps it had sensed that it had returned to its hometown, which it had not seen for a long time. The demon spirit butterfly happily danced in the sky, drawing beautiful emerald trails. Chirp chirp, Xiao Honglan seemed to be very interested in this beautiful little thing. It chased after the Chi Mei fairy butterfly. The spirit butterfly quickly flew to Yunsheng's side and gently touched Yunsheng with its wings. Quick, follow it. It said that it knows the way home. Yunsheng felt an unfamiliar language being transmitted to her. Yuan Bupo and Xian Mimi were still immersed in this strange scene. After being reminded by Yunsheng, the two of them quickly followed Yunsheng and followed the Chi Mei fairy butterfly as they ran forward. The three of them only felt waves of icy cold wind blowing past their ears, and countless tall pine and cypress trees swept past them. The spirit butterfly's agile body as it led the way. Gradually, the few of them left the core area of the snow forest sea and entered the outer area. Just as Yunsheng and the others entered the outer area of the snow forest sea, in a majestic city not far from the snow forest sea, a few white-haired, blue-eyed elven archers who looked like enlarged versions of the spirit butterfly heard the alarm. There are outsiders in the direction of the snow forest sea. As if they were facing a great enemy, the elven soldiers immediately gathered more than 100 people and rushed towards the snow forest sea. Quick, look in front. We should have already entered the immortal Jew nation. After running for a while, Yunsheng and the others were exhausted. The spirit butterfly danced happily in the air. At the end of the snow forest sea, a few miles away, they could see a majestic city of ice and snow. The city of ice and snow was like a palace that only existed in fairy tales. Under the bright sunlight, it reflected a colorful luster. Yuan Bu had always thought that the Grand Emperor's city was the real city. However, compared to the city of ice and snow in front of him, he, who came from the Grand Emperor's city, felt ashamed. The elves and their descendants craftsmen were world famous. The city they built was so beautiful that it did not seem like a palace in the mortal world. The three of them walked forward. Suddenly, little Honglan let out a sharp cry in the sky. Then, More than 100 snow-white figures appeared in the sky. They were elven archers. Their white hair danced in the wind, and they held magic bows in their hands. The person in the lead had an exquisite face like an ice sculpture. However, his expression was cold. Outsiders, what's your purpose in entering the immortal Jew nation? The snow forest sea was not an ordinary forest. It was an illusion array set up by the intelligent elven ancestors. Ordinary people could not pass through it. For many years, Icefall City, which was the outermost and most important defensive city of the immortal Jew nation, relied on the snow forest sea to defend against foreign enemies. However, some outsiders would unintentionally break the illusion array of the forest sea and break into Icefall City. The elves, who didn't like fighting, would erase the memories of outsiders who accidentally broke in and send them out. However, the elves would imprison those who tried to spy on the elves' treasures forever in Icefall City. Therefore, Icefall City was also where the elves' biggest prison was located. Although these elves looked very beautiful, their faces were cold, and this place was also very cold. We're here to look for the water of life. After seeing the elves, she and Mimi thought that everything was safe. She could not wait to find the water of life and leave this damned place as soon as possible. When Yunsheng heard this, he almost cursed out loud. Most elves did not seem to understand the human language. The captain, who could understand the human language, understood Xian Mimi's words. Human thieves, catch them. She had seen stupid people, but she had never seen such stupid people. Xian Mimi's words were like a robber running to the police and yelling, "This is a robbery. Take out your guns." The water of life was the holy water of the elves. Even the elven royal family could not obtain much of it in a year. Xian Mimi, an intruder, actually asked for the water of life? Sure enough, the elven archers of the Ice Clan all frowned. The bows in their hands flickered with magic light. Run! Being faced by 100 elven archers who were good at shooting, Yunsheng's first reaction was to run without any hesitation. With a whoosh, a magic ice arrow fell on a stone beside Yunsheng. Whoosh, another arrow was shot, and the rock immediately exploded. A magic array quickly formed between the two arrows. Almost at the same time, Yunsheng, Yuan Bupo, and the others felt the magic souls in their bodies stiffen. A strange feeling surrounded them. Not good. Their Dharma souls were sealed. Cold sweat appeared on the foreheads of the three people. There will be a major turning point next. Wait for me to smash my phone. I'm going to write, Happy National Day, double monthly ticket period, True Love, Kongming Star. Chapter 468. Magic Seal. It was the elf tribe's most unique magic that could seal a person's magic power instantly. The three of them did not run away. Facing a group of winged archers, running away seemed to be an unwise choice. The three of them were tied up. Their magic scepters and musical instruments were taken away. Even Xiao Honglan's wings were tied up, and they were taken to Icefall City. The fairy butterfly saw that Yunsheng was taken away and hesitated for a moment before it flapped its wings and escaped. When they were close to Icefall City, Yunsheng noticed that the city was built in front of a huge icefall. The icefall formed a natural city wall. They passed through the icefall and walked inside. They saw many pointy-eared elves along the street. Those with wings were real elves. The rest looked similar to humans. Those without wings were the descendants of elves and humans. The elf tribe did not have a good impression of humans. After knowing that Yunsheng and the rest were here to steal the water of life, the three of them were locked up in Icefall City's prison. Yunsheng and Xian Mimi were locked up in Icefall City's prison. It was a natural ice house. The prison cells here were separated into male and female cells. They were locked up separately. No one knew where Yuan Bu Po was locked up. Looking at the cold cave, Xian Mimi's face was filled with fear. Yunsheng also frowned. There were already more than 30 prisoners in the prison. They were all women. These women were of different ages. Most of them were in their 30s or 40s. Looking at their figures, they were either mages or warriors. They had been locked up for a long time. Their skin was pale due to the lack of sunlight. When the two of them walked in, they felt like sheep walking into a tiger's den. The elves walked away. "Newcomer, take off all your clothes and shoes." The one who spoke was a female warrior, sitting on the far left. She spoke in a rough voice as she stared at Xian Mimi's clothes fiercely. There were 7 to 8 female prisoners sitting next to her. Xian Mimi was wearing a mage's robe with beautiful workmanship. Her leather boots were also exquisite. Yun Sheng, on the other hand, was wearing ordinary clothes for convenience. Xian Mimi raised her head in disdain. "Who are you to order me around? Do you know that I am?" Before Xian Mimi could finish, a fist came flying over. She immediately covered her face and screamed, "You dare to hit me? You lowly prisoner! How dare you hit me? What a picky little wench! Go pull out her teeth one by one." Xian Mimi did not have good eyesight. This female warrior was obviously the leader of this prison. In this prison cell, most of the prisoners had their Dharma souls and battle chi sealed with a special method after they were locked up. In addition, their belongings and magic scepters had all been taken away. At this moment, their ability to resist was very limited. But that female warrior was different. Even if a warrior didn't have Do Chi, she could still rely on her innate strength and tyrannical physique to be much stronger than an average adult male. Xian Mimi was used to being rude and unreasonable. Today was the first time she suffered. As soon as the female warrior's voice fell, several female prisoners pounced on Xian Mimi like wolves and tigers and pressed her to the ground. "No help? Yun Sheng, save me." Xian Mimi remembered that she still had Yun Sheng as her companion. The veil on her face had long been torn off. In her panic, the sand and snow on the ground splashed on her face, making her look even uglier. The female warrior looked at Yun Sheng with disdain. What could a thin and weak female mage do? "You want to resist? I advise you to obediently take off all your clothes and shoes. This is a rule for newcomers. I am the boss here, Yi Xia. There are some rules in this prison cell. You'd better remember them clearly," Yi Xia said slowly. This prison cell was the only female prison in Icefall City. There were 32 female prisoners here. Yi Xia was the most senior one here. Before she was imprisoned, she was a powerful martial artist from the later Qin dynasty. After she came to this prison cell, she made a few rules. The first rule: when newcomers came in, all their clothes and shoes, except for their underwear, must be given to Yi Xia. The second rule: there will be a meal in the prison cell every day. For the first 3 days, food and water must be given to Yi Xia out of respect. The third rule: absolutely obey Yi Xia's orders. Do you all understand these 3 rules? Yi Xia said fiercely. "I heard you." Yun Sheng lowered her head, looking very obedient. She took the initiative to take off her coat and shoes. It was very cold in the female prison. After taking off her coat and shoes, it was even colder when she stepped on the ground barefoot. The elves didn't kill these foreign invaders, but they would lock them in the prison cell forever and give them only 1 meal a day. Between the prisoners, because of fighting for food or because their clothes were stolen, every once in a while, some people would die. It was also because of this that the number of people in the female prison decreased day by day, and those who survived became more and more indifferent. Regarding the evil deeds of the few people led by Yi Xia, most of the other people in the prison cell opened their eyes and closed their eyes. "You're quite obedient. Bring everything over." Yi Xia saw that Yun Sheng was so obedient and relaxed her vigilance against her. Yun Sheng walked forward. Just as she approached Yi Xia, she quickly covered Yi Xia's head with the clothes in her hands. She bent her knees and slammed them into Yi Xia's knees. Beside her, several female prisoners turned pale with fright. They all jumped up, wanted to grab Yun Sheng. "Whoever dares to come over, I'll poke her eyes blind." Yun Sheng sneered and pressed her finger on Yi Xia's eyes. The latter felt waves of stinging pain in her eyes. This female magician's strength was very great, not inferior to that of an ordinary warrior. Yi Xia naturally wouldn't have thought that Yun Sheng was not an ordinary female magician. She had stayed in Wushuan Limitless School before. although she didn't have a magic scepter or a beast language ring at the moment. With her jade marrow technique and physique, it was more than enough to survive in the female prison cell. "Little hussy, you dare!" Yi Xia's head was covered by the clothes, and her throat was choked by Yun Sheng. Her face was red from suffocation. Before she broke into the immortal residence country, she was a fugitive who lived by robbing and killing. Because she was wanted by the officials of various countries, she was chased until she had nowhere to go and mistakenly entered this forest. She didn't expect to fall into the hands of the elves and be locked in this prison for 10 whole years. In these 10 years, she had almost never been defeated. Many new female prisoners who came and were tortured to death by her, who knew that today she would kick an iron plate on Yun Sheng's body. "You can try." Yun Sheng didn't have the slightest intention of letting go. "If you dare to hurt me, your companion is dead." Yi Xia was certain that Yun Sheng came with Xian Mimi. "Whether she lives or dies, what does it have to do with me?" Yun Sheng smiled coldly. Chapter 469. Xian Mimi's face turned ashen when she heard this. She glared at Yun Sheng with hatred. Yi Xia hesitated when she saw their reactions. "What do you want?" "It's very simple. You be the boss, and I'll be the newcomer. I'm not willing to follow any of your 3 stupid rules." After Yun Sheng finished speaking, she suddenly raised her elbows and grabbed Yi Xia's shoulders with both hands. She only exerted a little strength. Yi Xia only felt a kacha sound coming from his hand. He was thrown out and fell flat on his face. Yi Xia struggled to get up from the ground. She felt a huge pain in her shoulders. She took a closer look and realized that her shoulders had been dislocated in an instant. She glanced at Yun Sheng and then at Xian Mimi. Viciousness flashed across her eyes. "Let her go." Yi Xia did not dare to be presumptuous when she realized that Yun Sheng was not an ordinary person. She asked someone to let go of Xian Mimi. Xian Mimi quickly ran behind Yun Sheng. Although she still hated Yun Sheng, she could see that under such harsh conditions, without Yun Sheng, she would not have a chance to survive. These people who were locked up in the prison were all fugitives. After this fight, there was a temporary peace in the women's prison. Yun Sheng ignored Xian Mimi. She found a quiet corner in the prison and rested. Xian Mimi curled up into a ball and widened her eyes, guarding against Yi Xia and the others. In an area far away from the women's prison, Yuan Bupo, who was locked up in the men's prison, was anxious. There were more men's prison cells in Icefall City. Yuan Bupo was locked up in a cell with 8 people. Most of them accidentally broke into the Snow Forest Sea and were locked up here. "You said that your 2 companions are locked up in the women's prison?" "Sigh. I'm afraid they're doomed." Yuan Bupo asked around and found out that the living environment of the women's prison was much worse than that of the men's. "Why do you say that? I don't think the elves are torturing us, nor are they harsh on us." Yuan Bupo also tried to shout, asking the elves to lock him up with Yun Sheng and the others, but the elves completely ignored him. The elves were known for being peace-loving and not bloodthirsty. Along the way, Yuan Bupo did not see any torture tools. "That's what you think. There's nothing scarier than endless imprisonment. The boss of the women's cell is called Yi Xia. That person used to be a murderer. If your 2 companions are more docile, they might be able to endure less torture. But if they have a bad temper, they might be tortured to death." The prisoner in the same cell shook his head. "Yi Xia is nothing. At most, it's just a competition of torture. If we meet that she-devil..." The person who spoke had a face full of fear. The others also revealed looks of horror. "What she-devil?" Yuan Bupo was worried. Unfortunately, the Yun Sheng he knew was definitely not a docile person. After an unknown period of time, the elves delivered food once. As soon as the food was delivered, everyone fought for it. Yi Xia's shoulder had yet to be reattached, and it hurt terribly. She did not dare to fight with Yun Sheng again. After eating a few mouthfuls of food that she did not know the taste of, Yun Sheng leaned against the wall. Yi Xia's words earlier still lingered in her ears. She said that she had been in this cell for 10 years. Did that mean that there was no hope for her to escape once she was locked up? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the door opening. On the other side of the cell, the door was opened. Bang! Two elven soldiers threw a woman with wounds all over her body into the cell. When the woman was thrown in, Yi Xia, who was in the corner, trembled. She was like a hungry wolf that suddenly saw a lion standing in front of her. In the cell, the female prisoners who were minding their own business turned their heads around. It was obvious that the female prisoner had been severely tortured. The clothes on her back were torn, and her flesh was badly mutilated. Her pale bones could be vaguely seen. Despite that, the female prisoner's hands and feet were still shackled. This was obviously different from the other female prisoners in the cell. The elves were not violent. After they had locked a person's combat energy and dharma soul, they would not be shackled in the cell. From this, it could be seen that this female prisoner who was being tortured must have committed some heinous crime. The female prisoner was unconscious. She lay on the ground as if she was dead. The atmosphere in the female prisoner's cell became tense. Yunsheng looked at the wounds on the female prisoner's body. Her healer's blood was boiling. She stood up and wanted to go forward to take a look. "Don't move! Are you trying to get us killed?" Yi Xia scolded fiercely. "She's severely injured, and she's having a fever." Yunsheng knew that the female prisoner had a fever when she saw her panting and her heaving chest. In this kind of environment, if the wounds were not treated, the female prisoner's situation would be very dangerous. "She'll die." "What a joke." Yi Xia snorted, as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. Yunsheng was too lazy to argue with her. She walked forward and wanted to take a look at the woman's wounds. As soon as she walked in, there was an uproar. A black shadow swept over. It turned out that the female prisoner was not completely unconscious. When she heard the footsteps, she subconsciously flew up, and the iron chains on her hands and feet rolled towards Yunsheng. Yunsheng did not expect that a seriously injured prisoner with a high fever would be so agile. However, Yunsheng's reaction was not slow. She slipped and her body moved back a few meters, just brushing past the female prisoner's iron chains. "I'm a doctor. If you don't want the wounds on your back to rupture and die from a high fever, it's best to let me take a look at your wounds." Yunsheng observed and found that Yi Xia's group, for unknown reasons, were very afraid of this female prisoner. The more this was the case, the more she wanted to be on good terms with this female prisoner. Yunsheng knew very well that she could not be locked up here forever. Since this female prisoner had been taken out for interrogation, there must be a special reason. Perhaps she could find out a way to escape from the prison from her. Hearing Yunsheng's words, the female prisoner stopped in her tracks. She looked up and her hair was thrown aside, revealing a mask. The patterns on the mask were very strange. Only a pair of eyes were revealed, but even just a pair of eyes lit up the entire cell in an instant. It was a pair of almond-shaped eyes. Under her thick and long eyelashes, her pitch-black eyes were like the night stars. Even in a country like the Elf Kingdom that was rich in beautiful men and women, it was difficult to find such a pair of soul-stirring eyes. Just these eyes alone made it easy to guess that the female prisoner must be very beautiful. Other than the mask on her face, the woman's entire body was like a jade sculpture. Her hair was silvery white, and other than the mask, the rest of her skin was like the finest cloud satin, exuding a seductive charm from her bones. She was a natural beauty, and her entire person was so unreal. Chapter 470. You're a doctor? The woman's eyes were very beautiful, but her voice was very unpleasant. When it landed in her ears, it was as if a file was being scraped hard. "I'm a doctor from Zhou State." Zhou State? A trace of hesitation flashed across the woman's eyes. The female prisoner heard Yunsheng mention Zhou State. Where was Zhou State? The name sounded a little familiar. The female prisoner felt a dull pain in her head. She wanted to think clearly, but her mind was muddled. There seemed to be a hand in her mind. Every time she vaguely recalled a figure, that hand would quickly scatter her memories. This female prisoner was a felon. After Yunsheng and the others were locked in prison, their shackles were removed. However, this female prisoner's hands and feet were all shackled with magic shackles. Moreover, upon closer inspection, one would find that her magic shackles were very special. They were actually magic shackles made of a mixture of 4 magic elements. The cold magic shackles made her slender limbs look even thinner. Her body shook, and she fell to the ground on her back, making a dull sound. When the people in the ice prison saw that the masked female prisoner had fallen, no one dared to go forward. All of them only avoided the masked female prisoner vigilantly. Xian Mimi, help me carry her to the corner. Yunsheng gave Xian Mimi a look. Xian Mimi walked over reluctantly. Yunsheng was her backer now. Yunsheng lifted the woman's long hair and saw her wound. What a serious injury! Yunsheng had seen countless thrilling scenes since she started practicing medicine, but this was the first time she saw such a shocking wound on a woman's body. There were hundreds of messy whip wounds, some horizontal, some vertical, all over the place. Compared to the skin on the masked female prisoner's body, it was even more shocking. What kind of felony would make the elves, who had always loved peace, treat this female prisoner so heavily? What did she do? Why did she have to be punished so severely? Yunsheng was puzzled as she checked the wound. No one in the cell answered. Yunsheng didn't ask further. In this cell, people's hearts were as cold as ice. Her body is so hot, Xian Mimi exclaimed. Yunsheng touched the woman's forehead. Sure enough, it was scalding hot. Yunsheng checked the woman's pulse and heartbeat and found that her heartbeat was very fast, and her body temperature was shockingly high. The wound must have been infected, causing tetanus. If the fever didn't subside, even if the woman managed to survive by the time dawn came, she would have turned into a retard. Yunsheng couldn't help but frown. The facilities in the cell were very simple. There wasn't even a bed. Her orc speech ring and magic scepter had all been confiscated. He didn't have any medicine or tools on hand. What should he do? Yunsheng thought for a while. She couldn't cook without rice. In a situation where there was no medicine to be used, she could only use the materials on the ground. She casually grabbed a handful of clean snow from the ground. There was nothing in the ice cell except for snow everywhere. Yunsheng quickly squeezed the snow into a small ball and threw a piece to Xian Mimi. What are you doing? Xian Mimi was annoyed. Let's cool her down physically. You use this snowball to follow my method and gestures. Wipe her armpits, knees, armpits, limbs, and her entire body until her body temperature drops. After Yunsheng finished speaking, she took the lead and started to move her hands. You want me to serve a female prisoner? Xian Mimi's spoiled temper flared up again. You're also a female prisoner now. Either you help or get lost. Yunsheng shouted sternly. Xian Mimi was frightened by Yunsheng's imposing manner. She could only look at Yunsheng's actions with resentment. Following Yunsheng's instructions, she squeezed the snowball and wiped the masked female prisoner's body. There were only women in the female prison. Yunsheng didn't have any concerns. She took off the woman's outer clothes. The woman's outer clothes had long been torn apart. The outer clothes were still covered with flesh and blood. With a rip, a large piece of skin on the woman's back was torn off. Even Yunsheng's heart trembled for no reason when she made her move. The woman, who had fallen into a coma due to her high fever, stiffened her back and didn't make any unnecessary sounds. This was a very strong-willed woman. She wouldn't beg for mercy even when she was being tortured. Yunsheng thought as she continued to wipe the woman with ice and snow. Xian Mimi wiped for an hour and refused to do any more. Yunsheng could only hold on by herself. After 5 to 6 hours, Yunsheng's fingers were stiff. A layer of ice had formed on the woman's body and then evaporated into a thin layer of mist. The temperature of the masked female prisoner's body had also dropped. Yunsheng touched the woman's forehead with her hand. After confirming that the fever had subsided, she breathed a sigh of relief. Her body temperature is normal. She'll be fine after drinking some water. Yunsheng also noticed that the woman didn't look very strong, but her recovery ability was amazing. The whip wounds that were fatal had actually healed spontaneously after 12 to 12 hours. The whip wounds on her back had already scabbed over on their own without the use of any medicine. Presumably, her wounds would be healed in a few days. When Yun Sheng examined the woman, she also secretly paid attention to the woman's body. She didn't find any fighting energy or magic power in the woman's body. It seemed that this masked female prisoner, who was a taboo in the female prison, wasn't a warrior. She wasn't even a magician. Then who was she? Why was her self-healing ability so amazing? Among all the patients that Yun Sheng had come in contact with, only Yi Baiming had a self-healing ability comparable to this masked female prisoner. The physiques of the masked female prisoner and Yi Baiming could be regarded as monstrous. 5 to 6 hours had passed. In the female prison, most of the female prisoners were either asleep or in a daze. This was the normal pace of life in the female prison. Only Yi Xia, after learning that Yun Sheng was a doctor, had been secretly observing Yun Sheng. "Are you really a doctor?" Yi Xia suddenly opened her mouth. For 5 to 6 hours, Yi Xia had been watching Yun Sheng's movements from the side. She didn't expect that this thin girl was actually a doctor. Yun Sheng didn't say a word. She took out the fresh water that was sent yesterday and fed it to the woman's mouth. "I advise you not to save her. Even the elves have to retreat from this woman. Maybe the first thing she will do when she wakes up is to kill you." After learning about Yun Sheng's identity, Yi Xia wanted to befriend her. She pointed to her arm that was still hanging down. "Put my arm back, and I will tell you about this woman." Yi Xia had been in the prison for 10 years and had seen all kinds of people. She also saw that Yun Sheng was very interested in the masked female prisoner. Yun Sheng didn't say much. She stepped forward, grabbed Yi Xia's arm, and pulled it hard. With a crack, Yi Xia twisted her hand and found that her hand, which had been completely numb, had recovered. Chapter 471. Before Yi Xia was locked up in the female prison, she was a wanted warrior. She had been on the run for many years, so she knew some superficial martial arts. When Yun Sheng dislocated her arm, she thought that she was careless and accidentally fell into the other party's ambush. However, when she secretly wanted to set her arm back, she found that Yun Sheng's treatment method was very special. She actually couldn't set her broken arm back. Yi Xia naturally didn't know that Yun Sheng's treatment method was special because she secretly used a hidden needle when she made the move. If Yun Sheng didn't personally treat the needle, Yi Xia's arm wouldn't be able to recover for the rest of her life. Seeing that her arm had recovered, Yi Xia opened her mouth to speak. "That woman is a lunatic. Not long after she was locked up, she killed an elven guard who came to deliver food." When Yi Xia talked about that incident, she couldn't help but shiver. She boasted that she was a murderer who killed people without batting an eyelid. But after being locked up in the ice prison, she didn't dare to act presumptuously. The magic arrows of the elves were really powerful. Anyone who was shot would have their movement restricted and the magic souls of the magicians sealed. Without the magic of the elves, it was impossible to recover. As a result, these once notorious fugitives didn't dare to act presumptuously in the ice prison of Icefall City. But that masked female prisoner was different. Her skills seemed to have nothing to do with magic power or do qi. She killed that elven guard in the blink of an eye. It was also because of this incident that the elves, who had always loved peace and didn't want to kill, took special care of the masked female prisoner. Not only did they put her in shackles, they also imposed additional punishments on her. Every 10 days, the elven guards would take the masked female prisoner out alone and give her 100 lashes. The elves' weapons were all very powerful and could slowly wear down a person's magic soul and do qi. This female prisoner had been locked up for more than 3 years and had been whipped more than 30 times. She became weaker each time, but she was able to survive every time. This time was the most serious. If it weren't for Yun Sheng, she probably wouldn't have been able to survive. That female prisoner was actually able to kill an elven guard in one move. When Yun Sheng heard this, she still didn't believe it. The elves of Icefall City were the bravest and most warlike elven warriors of the Immortal Keeper Nation. Their elven magic was very powerful, and most of them cultivated both magic and martial arts. In a situation where her magic soul was suppressed and her do chi circulation was impeded, she was still able to kill him in a single move. Just how powerful was this masked woman? As he spoke, the woman on the ground let out a soft sound. "You saved me?" The woman's ear-piercing voice sounded from behind him. Although she had just woken up, her voice sounded very clear. She didn't sound like someone who had almost died from a high fever. From this, it could be seen how amazing her recovery ability was. Although the masked female prisoner did not say anything, the moment she woke up, she began to examine her body. Upon examination, she discovered that her injuries were especially serious this time around. While she was unconscious, she could feel that someone was constantly cooling her down. At the same time, that person was constantly whispering in her ear, "Hang in there." That voice was very friendly. "Senior, you're awake." Yun Sheng was not frightened by Yi Xia's words. When she heard Yun Sheng's voice, the masked female prisoner's brain suddenly twitched. The masked female prisoner curled up her body, not knowing whether it was because of pain or because of her injuries. "What's wrong with you? Are you still not feeling well?" Yun Sheng wanted to go forward and check. The woman forcefully shook off Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was not on guard and was thrown out. "Don't touch me," the masked female prisoner said fiercely. "I forgot to tell you that this woman hates being touched. The last person who touched her was torn into two by her. She's just like a wild beast." Yi Xiao watched from the side and rejoiced in other people's misfortune. "She deliberately didn't tell me." Yun Sheng glanced at Yi Xia. Yi Xia did have the intention to harm Yun Sheng. Who told Yun Sheng to give her a show of strength as soon as she entered the cell? In this female prison, other than the masked female prisoner who was like a killing machine, Yi Xia had never been bullied by anyone else. She couldn't wait for Yun Sheng to anger the masked female prisoner and be torn in half. However, the masked female prisoner looked a little strange today. If it was any other day, Yun Sheng would have been killed long ago. She seemed to have hit her hard just now, but compared to her previous fierceness, it was nothing. After the masked female prisoner threw Yun Sheng away, she gasped for breath and looked at Yun Sheng warily. She was a very beautiful young lady, and it was easy for people to have a good impression of her. Although she was unreasonably thrown away, she didn't seem angry. Soon, the masked female prisoner noticed the water bag beside her. That was the young lady's water. A trace of surprise flashed through the masked female's eyes. She understood that it was the young lady who had been taking care of her last night. She even left her own water for her. "Senior, I didn't mean to offend you." Yun Sheng no longer pestered her and didn't look angry. She found a clean corner and sat down, closed her eyes, and rested. Without magic power, and with the demon's sealing arrow, she was busy all night, and her situation wasn't good. Not long after the masked female prisoner woke up, the elven guards brought dry food and water as usual. Unlike the previous scene of a hubbub, this time, no one in the prison dared to rob her. Everyone looked at the masked female prisoner. As long as the masked female prisoner wasn't taken out and tortured, the female prisoners in the female prison were most in awe of her. She didn't move, and the others didn't dare to step forward. Even Yi Xia didn't move. Time seemed to have frozen. The masked female prisoner moved, and the magic chains on her body made an uproar on the ground. "You take it first?" The masked female prisoner said was Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng was surprised. Was she repaying her for saving her life last night? Yun Sheng didn't refuse. The food and water in the ice prison was very limited. Everyone only had one meal a day. For Yun Sheng, who was used to 3 meals a day, this was obviously not enough. Under the gaze of dozens of people in the ice prison, Yun Sheng took 2 portions of water and 2 portions of dry food. Xian Mimi, who was at the side, was also starving. Seeing that Yun Sheng could take the food, she mustered up her courage and walked forward. "Get lost! Who do you think you are?" The masked female prisoner waved the chain in her hand. The magic chain looked thick and heavy, but in the hands of the masked female prisoner, it was like a dancer's sleeves, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. "Pa!" The chain smashed down. Xian Mimi screamed and covered her hand. A piece of flesh had been torn off her arm, and blood flowed out. "I'm her companion," Xian Mimi cried. The masked female prisoner looked at Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng took a bite of dry food, drank a mouthful of water, and chewed a few mouthfuls. Her face was expressionless. Yun Sheng wouldn't easily forget what Grand Emperor City had done to the Yun residents. She wasn't a saint. Yun Sheng's indifference was undoubtedly the best denial. "Yun Sheng, wait until I get out. I won't let you off." Xian Mimi covered her wound and cursed fiercely. She couldn't wait to tear Yun Sheng apart. Yun Sheng's meaning was very clear. Xian Mimi didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. She could only put down the food and water and retreat. Yun Sheng said indifferently, "It's not too late to say ruthless words when you can get out." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.